This is a place overflowing with monsters and traps. It is called the Labyrinth. Adventurers who enter the labyrinth are divided into 4 types. Warriors who use their natural physique to handle the frontline fights. This group's warrior sees that a huge rat is blocking the way and wonders if they should engage. Priests who support the party with divine power. This priest notes that this is their only path forward. Mages who could be called the main body of the party. This one is choosing to remain silent. And the 4th type, those who enter the labyrinth with no special abilities. The warrior believes that this is the only path after all, and he even made eye contact with that rat. The priest notes that he should take the lead, as she will follow, but the warrior is pretty hesitant. That's when the 4th type appears. A boy as young as they, but physically more built. He wants to step forward to fight if they can get out of the way for a bit. This is his type. It is commonly called a guide. The warrior confirms as such. It's a profession that tells one about labyrinth traps and monsters' weaknesses. But in terms of combat, they're almost no different from all normal people. The priest wonders if they should stop him, and asks if he's not passing this off just because he's scared. The warrior denies such a claim. Obviously, he's curious about the fighting method of a guide who has 0 combat ability. The guide thinks that what he is saying is correct. As a rule, adventurers are usually divided by rank, from hero all the way to apprentice. Guides barely make it to the upper ranks of the beginner level. In other words, they are beings with no reason or need to enter combat, but he has a reason for doing this. He explains that labyrinth rats live in the dark labyrinth, so they are classified as nocturnal. That's why he is carrying a lantern. Therefore, they will not act recklessly in bright places. Using that in reverse, if he turns off the lantern, the rat naturally charges in, thinking it has the upper hand over its prey. It's much more threatening than he thought, but he stays calm and waits just a little more. When the labyrinth rat enters a certain distance, he activates the lantern again, causing the rat to cry out as its eyes begin to sizzle. This allows the guide to move in with a knife and take out the rat without much preamble. He is glad that he did, though. The priest is amazed. That's what the lantern was for. He really is amazing. The guide calms her down, noting that it was just a labyrinth rat. All adventurers can catch low-grade monsters like labyrinth rats. Although it's progress from before, suddenly another rat appears, and the priest tries to warn the guide, but the rat is already on him and opening its mouth to taste his succulent flesh. Before that can happen, however, a flame overwhelms the rat, swallowing him whole and turning him into ash in an instant. The mage notes that they offer to help catch it together, but he went out alone. Is he hurt anywhere? This girl is Reina. He is a childhood friend. They parted ways a few years ago, but recently met again. He did not expect her to become this strong. The guide notes that if he hadn't been careless, he could have caught the 2 of them too. Reina puts that aside and asks where her thank you is. The guide just turns to walk and thanks her rather standoffishly. As he sits down somewhere, Reina approaches and taps his shoulder, asking if he's okay. He has seemed a little uncomfortable since earlier. Is there some sort of problem? Well, it is strange that he is working as a guide in the first place. Why is someone who wanted to become a hero a guide? Could it be because of the incident back then? The guide remembered that incident, as it's something that he could never forget. His childhood dream was to become a hero. However, on that day, the day the village was attacked by those vile monsters, he realized he rushed out to save people. However, being weak, he could not do a single thing. He couldn't become the hero he dreamed of as a child. Unable to become a hero, he ran away to become a guide. That's basically it. Reina notes that it really was because of that. But why did he catch the labyrinth rat alone earlier, even though he realized he was weak? The guide explains that he has a goal he wants to achieve, and for that, he needs strength. Because if one is weak, they cannot do a single thing, and he cannot remain weak forever. Reina smiles fondly and says that since they talked and rested, they should go and look for that mandrake, because that was the request they accepted after all. Most adventurers maintain their livelihood by taking various requests. Beginners like him typically form teams and enter labyrinths. Suddenly, he looks into a dark corner of the labyrinth, and the direction is the inner part of the labyrinth. Reina asks if something is there, and the guide guesses it's his imagination, although he wonders. After rejoining the group, they decide to split up to search for the mandrake. Assuming their current position is A, Reina and he will search Area B. The warrior and priest decided to investigate Area C. It's an efficient way of scattering. In Area C, the warrior notes that they roughly look around here, so they should go to the opposite side. He asks the priest where she's going, as they have already looked around there, and she apologizes, as she couldn't really concentrate. The warrior guesses that he keeps looking focused because of the guide, but should he have stepped forward earlier too? He needed to show something cool as well. Suddenly he spots a chest, and notes that they can't pass it up at all. The priest is a little scared, however. It might be trapped, so they should ask the guide for help. The warrior immediately gets annoyed. That damn guide. They don't need a guide in the first place. He can handle this much, so she should just watch from there. The priest agrees, wondering about the mandrake. In Area B, the guide smells the soil, with Reina asking what he is doing. He explains that mandrakes have a distinctive scent on them, so one can locate them through the soil. She notes that's a very guide-like method, and thinks about it before unleashing some magic onto him. It is sensory magic. It amplifies his senses for a certain time. Will this help? The guide thanks her with this. They can find it more quickly. Reina notes it's not even difficult. She just felt bad for watching from the side. Because of their combined efforts, they find the mandrake pretty easily. But Reina wonders why the guide is lurking around like this. Thanks to his heightened senses, he can now detect it. It's faint, but it's a smell that gets stronger as one goes deeper into the labyrinth. A tangy, metallic scent. That disgusting smell he has smelled somewhere before. It definitely seems to be coming from around here. Reina thinks that this guy has become pretty difficult to deal with, and wonders what topic they should talk about. She asks if he heard about the story of the royal government suppressing the bandit groups. The guy has, but he heard they couldn't catch some bandit groups. Reina confirms as such, so the suppression forces are chasing after them. Rumor has it a hero is pursuing them. Then, has he heard about the merchant disappearance case? It's an incident that happened near the labyrinth. Doesn't it seem suspicious? The guy has not heard about that, but why is she suddenly talking about this? Reina says that she's doing it just in case. What if those bandits kill the merchants and are hiding in the labyrinth? Ruined labyrinths like this would be a pretty good environment for them to live in, right? Suddenly, she sees him reacting and asks why he's acting like that. Did he get scared just by what she said? If so, he should have said so. If he asks, she might be able to protect him. The guide, however, knows that it's not that. It's the smell. Reina guesses that it's because of her and the things she didn't wash this morning, but the guy tells her it's not that. It is corpses. It's the smell of corpses. They begin following it, as the smell is strongest here, and Reina can detect it as well. Sure enough, they find themselves in an area that looks like a drainage room with more than a few corpses strewn about in various grades of decomposition. The warrior continues trying to open the chest, with the priest noting that it's been a long time. Should they start looking for the mandrake? He says that he is almost done, but the priest thinks that the atmosphere here is pretty unusual. Something is definitely unsettling. Suddenly something startles her from a shadow, and she notes that they should go, but that's when the warrior unlocks the chest and begins opening it. She goes to him, noting that he shouldn't open it suddenly, but the warrior just told her to watch. This much is a piece of cake, even for him. The priest looks at this place again, and notes that it's pretty huge. Is there space inside of it too? What was that sound from earlier? Well, it's probably nothing serious. Maybe just a small rat. The warrior turns to the chest and finds quite a few valuable things, but then falls silent. The priest asks if he heard that sound earlier, calling him Simon. She asks him again and again, but when he doesn't answer, she puts her hand on his shoulder, only to see that he has been struck by an arrow right into his neck, likely poisoned, if not fatal. The guide begins running, as it's too dangerous to move separately in a situation like this. They need to quickly rejoin the warrior and the priest, because right now, this labyrinth is the home of monsters that kill people, and under no circumstances will they let them live. The person living here is a murderer. Just as the murderer is about to strike the priest in the neck, she manages to block his strike with both of her hands, the knife going through them and causing her to wail in pain, although it's muffled by the murderer's hand. He notes that they are pretty unlucky. He was just about to leave this place today, and they walked in at this exact moment. Well, he has no time to waste. He will kill them right away. He begins pushing his knife downwards. The priest doesn't have the murderer's constitution, so she can't hope to defend against it. But the guide then tackles him and puts him against the wall, causing the murderer to recoil and lose his breath. Before he can recover, the guide moves behind him and puts him in a chokehold and tells Reina to shoot. Immediately, Reina summons a magic bullet that goes right into the murderer's head. Cariel goes to the priest and uses divine power, confusing Reina. He explains that it's only for hemostasis. He cannot do anything else. It seems that both the warriors and the priests have been poisoned. They need to get out of here fast. Reina understands. She will carry one with magic. The murderer, still not dead, notes that it is impossible. After all, his comrades will be here soon. There is no way novices like them could handle them all, so they should surrender now, as he will give them a painless death. Reina just smacks him in the head, telling him to stop trying to rattle them on purpose. Here are the goods they took from the merchants. There are other belongings here too, so they must have been using this labyrinth as a temporary hideout for some time. Judging from the situation, what this murderer said about his comrades is probably true, and on top of that, he can faintly hear voices from further away. He wonders what he should do, as if he leaves these two behind, they will not survive. But could he, a guide, actually save them? He looks at a priest who begs him, but suddenly he sees a pair of hands in front of him, someone telling him not to look, calling him Cariel. It's his mother's voice that tells him that he knows full well that looking will only bring him more pain. There is nothing he can do anymore. Cariel notes that they're looking at him with eyes that are begging for help, but his mother suddenly laughs. Has he already forgotten the day the monsters attacked? How he turned away from that child who was crying out for help? He should listen carefully while he still can. He is not a hero. Saving others is the duty of the strong. He is part of the weak, with such frail arms. Who could he possibly save? So he just should pretend he did not see anything. Cariel eventually agrees. Someone weak like him, how could he save anyone? He should just pretend not to see. He is not a hero, or anything anyway. Suddenly though, Reina snaps him out of his stupor, shouting his name. She asks if he's all right, as she needs him to focus. Cariel grits his teeth, thinking that she's right. Now is not a time to waste, to linger on the past. First, he needs a way to get out of here alive, and think of a method. He thanks Reina for pulling him out, and apologizes for worrying her too. With that, he gets to thinking. Their opponents are a battle-hardened bandit group. On their side, they have 2 wounded, a mage, and a guide. The setting is an old labyrinth, but wait, if it's something like this, then it might just work. He calls out Reina, and tells her that from here on, she should follow his lead, as he might have found a way to get out of here. Sure enough, the other bandits come inside the labyrinth, with one of them telling the others to move quickly, as they need to leave this place today. Another one notes that the guy who was chasing them is said to be the hero who injured their boss. The first bandit agrees that's why the boss told them to hurry. Suddenly though, as they get into the labyrinth at the crossways, they see the guide, wondering who he is. One of them wonders if it's the hero, and if he has found them already. But the second boss thinks that there's no way he is the hero. Wait, he is carrying their stuff? This little bastard is trying to run off with their jewels. Before he can go to do something, the second boss stops him and notes that it doesn't matter if he knows them or not. They are in a hurry, so they don't want a pointless fight. He should hand over the goods, and they will let him pass naturally. Even if they are bandits, they can be pretty reasonable. There's no point in shedding blood needlessly, right? Cariel thinks that it sounds like they are making an offer, but from the start, these guys are killers. Avoiding a fight is not an option. If that's the case, they will do something else. He closes his eyes and throws the bag at the second boss. He is quick on the uptake, however. Witnesses have to die. That's the rule of their line of work. However, he doesn't see the gigantic fireball flying towards him, and it hits him pretty well, with Cariel hoping that this was enough to kill him in one blow. The second boss, however, has defended against the attack, noting that they tried for cheap tricks, but they should not hope for a painless death after something like this. Cariel damns it all. The first plan failed. Now they will move on to the next tactic. He begins running away, and the bandits give chase. He thinks that at least the earlier attacks were not entirely useless. He managed to sap the strength of 2 bandits and their mage. The second boss tells them that the enemy has an ally nearby, so they should stay on guard. They begin throwing a bunch of knives at Cariel too. His legs begin locking up from the tension, but if he moves just a little farther to the front, just a little more, even against their mighty strikes, if he can hold out just a little longer, he will be fine. The second boss, seeing that Cariel is still running away even after a punch, tells his guy to get out of the way, as he will roast the bastard alive. Cariel knows he cannot dodge in this state, but that's when Reina appears behind them, unleashing a bunch of magic right toward the second boss. He notes that she's been annoying them for a while now, but that's fine. He wants to see if she can, but before he can finish the sentence, he sees that she wasn't actually aiming for them, and was actually blocking the entrance. So that's their game. All this just to sacrifice himself and save his comrades. He shouldn't even think he can't break this wall. He just wants to kill him first. That's all. Cariel laughs at him, catching his breath, noting that something like this won't happen. He remembers the plan he told Reina about. First, they will move the warrior and the priest to a safe zone. Then they will strike the bandits first. If that fails, they will lure them to an Area C. She naturally didn't like the plan to block off the passage in Area C. That's basically using him as bait while she runs away. She would never agree to something like this. Cariel, however, told her that's actually one part of the plan. The truth is, the more important part is this. The sensory amplification magic she used earlier. Can she also block hearing with it? The mandrake is a monster that screams the moment it is pulled out of the ground. The bandits wonder what the hell he is doing, but Cariel knows that if one hears a mandrake scream, they will experience side effects like hallucinations, nausea, and dizziness. In severe cases, it can even kill a person, but in that case, the simple counter to this is simply not to listen at all. Cariel manages to pull out the mandrake, who immediately unleashes a blood-curdling scream, causing the bandits to wail and scream in pain as well. Somewhere nearby, the hero senses the smell of battle and thinks that his target is definitely somewhere around here. The second boss mage cuts the mandrake in two, telling him to stop playing cheap tricks. But with that last attack, that bastard almost took a fatal wound too. He wonders where he went and thinks that he disappeared, but suddenly Cariel unleashes a devastating fist into his jaw. The mandrake scream effect is affected by magic resistance. That's why he takes out the mage first, and then moves on to the others. The other one tells him to wait a moment, but Cariel doesn't heed him, knocking him out. The last one charges in with a mighty punch. Cariel weaves it and puts him into the wall. Just like the other one, the brute tries an overhead strike, but Cariel blocks it and puts his forearm right in his throat. The brute immediately reacts and tries to put his thumb right in Cariel's right eye, but he dodges with milliseconds to spare. The brute only hits the side of his face. Still, it hurts like hell. Cariel grits his teeth and continues applying pressure to the brute's throat, eventually knocking him out. Now they are able to carry the two injured out of here. Cariel notes that, thankfully, it worked out well according to his plan, but that was really close. Her mana almost hit rock bottom. Well, still without her in his plan, he could have never attempted it, right? Cariel agrees that if it weren't a mage of her level, he could have never even tried it. Most of all, he thanks her for following such a reckless plan. Reina can't believe he's just taking seriously what she said, just to try to lighten the mood. He was cool today too, like a hero. Cariel just smiles, almost in resignation. He notes that after they get out of here, they should talk for the first time in a while, as he is curious about how she's been. Reina agrees it's been a long time since she had an adventure with him, and she wants to tell him more. Suddenly, a light appears as they approach the exit, but Cariel sees through the light, as there is some kind of shadow, the shadow of the bandit boss, who smiles with manic glee, clearly excited to see new targets. Cariel notices and stops telling Reina that they need to get back inside the labyrinth now, but he then feels something flying towards them. It seems to be some type of grenade, and Reina tries to defend against it, but it blows up without them being able to do anything. Cariel is knocked right into a wall, with pain all over his body. He wonders if that attack just now was a magic stone bullet, but this opponent, is he the bandits group boss? The warrior and the priest should be okay too. More importantly, Reina is in a dangerous state from using mana recklessly. He needs to get up quickly. Before he can even move, he gets kicked right in the stomach. With the boss surprised to see a guy, he just wasted a magic bullet for nothing, it seems. He doesn't have time to worry about trash jobs like this. There was definitely a mage too, however. He needs to find and kill them quickly. Cariel, even in this state, thinks that he shouldn't let him ignore him and leave, but his consciousness is getting fuzzy, even though he has to save Reina. It's no good after all. Can someone like him save people? Why does he try to save people in the first place? From birth? Or because he likes praise? Or maybe he admires the heroes? He doesn't really know. Why does he even try to get stronger? To save people? Or for revenge against the monster that got him? He said he doesn't know. He doesn't even know what to do anymore. Reina wonders if he ever needed a reason to try to save people. He is the one who always helped, even in such situations. Most of all, he wanted to become a hero to save people too, didn't he? Cariel notes that it was, but does that have any sort of meaning at this point? No matter how hard he tries, he is just a mere guide. Even if he gets stronger, nothing will change. He can never reach a mage like her, Reina. Even in his mind, he knows that she is pretty talented. After all, Cariel continues noting that only strong people can save others and kill monsters. As he trained his body and hunted monsters to get stronger, he naturally got better at it. But this is the result. He cannot save a single person. His mother was right. This kind of thing is what heroes do. Reina asks if he doesn't know what to do anymore, and Cariel agrees. He won't do anything anyway, since he can't save anyone. Reina notes that he already knows he can't pass by people in danger. Cariel sighs and asks what the proof is, but Reina just tells him to open his eyes, as his actions are the evidence. Sure enough, he opens his eyes and sees that he subconsciously grabbed the boss's ankle, who asks what he is trying to do with him. He unleashes another kick, punting him into the wall again, noting that he is already short on time. Now though, he can't even get up, so he should stay lying down like that, as it befits his position of a weakling. Cariel, thanks Reina. His confused mind has cleared up. What's important to him right now is to rescue people. The boss finds Reina and grabs her by a tuft of her hair, thinking that troublesome ones like mages need to be dealt with first. Well, since he found her, it puts his mind at ease. She seems to be trying to say something too, but obviously, she is probably asking to be saved. Unfortunately, there is no one here who can save her. Right now then, he will send her off in just one blow. Before he can unleash this devastating kick on her, Cariel strikes his side, making the boss wince in pain. He turns around and unleashes a mighty punch into Cariel's guts, sending him flying again. The boss knows what he did. He hit his injured spot. He should have just stayed still while he could. This time, for real, he should wait quietly, as he will kill him too. However, the boss begins laughing, as there is no way he is getting up again. He is like a cockroach. Cariel knows that what's important right now isn't some convincing reason. What is important right now is that he won't look for excuses or reasons anymore, because he wants to do it. He will save people. This is something he is doing of his own will. The boss is surprised to see a guide who can actually use divine power. He certainly is no ordinary man, but even so, what exactly does he think he can do? Nothing will change. After all, he is still just a guide. Cariel agrees. In this situation, nothing changes. The warrior and the priest were already gravely wounded, and even Reina is unconscious. However, maybe, just maybe, if the hero chasing this bandit group is on the way, then all he can do is buy time and hope that the hero arrives. He rushes in and puts his hand behind his back, seemingly grabbing something, making the boss try to hit him, but this was a fake, as Cariel uses his other hand to punch him squarely in the face. He would use his sword, but it snapped inside his bag from the earlier impact, and with attacks like these, he won't even be able to stall them. In that case, he will have to go for something that will truly work, to wound. Before he can unleash another punch though, the boss grabs his hand and smacks him across the head before kneeing him right in the chin, causing him to almost lose consciousness entirely. The boss really hopes he doesn't think he can win just because he got a lucky hit once. Cariel, however, refuses to stand down and charges in again, gaining back his lost consciousness. The boss is surprised, as if he's honest. He has never met an idiot quite like him. This would maybe show him something more, but he is just wasting his time. He is clinging to his leg like a dog. Is he hoping the hero will show up perhaps? But he should know that he has changed his mind about this. He grabs Cariel's throat and pins him against the wall. At first, since he was in a hurry, he thought he would just ignore him, but now he sees that pests like him are much more dangerous than any mage, so he will kill them all before he leaves. Cariel, even in his state, believes that he has to hold out until the hero gets here, but his body is at its limit. He apologizes to Reina for not saving her, just like back when he dreamed of being a hero, someone whose mere presence could put everyone at ease. That's when Cariel looks up and sees that the hero has arrived and blocked the boss's rocky strike. He clenches the boss's arm, breaking his knuckles, and the boss immediately retreats. He wonders why heroes are so obsessed with hunting bandits like him, instead of chasing the Demon King, but through his facade, he thinks he damned the guy for stalling him so much. The hero notes that he should know it better than anyone that the Demon King is already dead right now. They are the real plague. The boss notes that it doesn't matter. Today is the last day he will be on his tail, with the hero thinking that this is pretty funny because he was thinking the exact same thing, because he will die today. The bandit tries to hit him with his sharp rock, but the hero just unleashes a devastating strike to his side, making the bandit immediately lose control and fall on his face. He turns around, asking if everyone is all right, and sees Cariel noting that his wounds are severe. They should get him to the cathedral immediately. Cariel notes that he is fine, smiling. He explains that there are people in worse shape than him, those people lying unconscious back there. With that, he falls unconscious, with the hero catching him, noting that he has passed out. Cariel eventually wakes up in another place entirely, in a small cathedral on the outskirts of town. For some reason, he doesn't feel any pain either, even if he is bandaged a bit. The hero then appears, noting that he's been out of it for about 3 days. Cariel sees who it is. He is the one who saved them at the time, right? The hero explains that he should be fine now. He asks the cathedral priest to tend to him personally. Cariel thanks him and asks about the companions who were with him. The hero explains that they are all receiving treatment and resting in the next room, so they are all fine. No major injuries or anything. They got pretty lucky. Actually, he stayed here because there is something he must tell him, confusing Cariel, and he wonders what it is. The hero believes, though, that first he should introduce himself properly. He is the hero Akela. By the order of the crown, he travels wherever he is needed. The hero also notes that there are reports of never-before-seen monsters appearing in the forests, a suspicious organization with unknown motives, and a so-called hero hunter, a demon that's targeting only monsters and heroes. Cariel laughs lightly, noting that there are even more problems now, even without a demon king. Akela agrees. It's almost as if something is trying to fill the void he left. He looked into what happened in the labyrinth the other day. Under such restrictive conditions, Cariel managed to adapt using a mandrake. Thanks to him, not only the boss but the rest of the bandits hiding in the labyrinth were captured. Cariel is glad that they were all caught, and the hero continues. In the days ahead, there will surely be situations that cannot be solved through strength alone, so he will get straight to the point. He needs a guide like him on his journey. Will he be able to travel with him? Cariel is confused and stares a bit wide-eyed. Did he hear that right? Him traveling with a hero? Startled, his mind went blank, and instead of answering, he asked a question. Where will they be going? Akela explains that there is only one place they can go now, to the Forest of Golems. Before the hero can ask anything else, Reina comes inside the room, overhearing the conversation from outside. Cariel is glad that she's safe, but since she'll be traveling with a hero, she'll be fine. Reina is pleased with the hero letting her come along, as this guy is the type who'll end up dead on his own before he knows it. He'll need someone like her to cover for him, and if he has any conscience, he wouldn't leave her behind. Cariel wonders if they made some kind of promise or something, but Reina tells him to forget it if he doesn't remember. She can take a leave of absence from school or handle it somehow, as a mage is useful in situations during adventures, so she wants to come along as well. Reina and Cariel decided to set off on an adventure with the hero. The reason Cariel accepted the hero's proposal was that hope emerged for a goal that seemed impossible. By adventuring with the hero, he will grow stronger, and someday he will defeat that monster he saw back then with his own two hands. Akela takes him out of his thoughts and notes that they should get a move on, so if he could guide them. Cariel agrees they should depart right away. However, he wonders why Reina is smiling like this. She explains that this is called the Forest of Golems, and golems are pretty cute. He made one during practical exams before. Cariel wonders if she doesn't really mean huge ones and tells her that she might be disappointed, so she shouldn't expect too much. They begin walking through the labyrinthine sand forest of the golems, and Reina wonders, as they continue walking, that it's called the Forest of Golems, but she hasn't seen any yet. Cariel explains that this is just a pet that workers use. She will have to go through the quarry to see the golems. Reina wonders what this place is. So it was a mine. It's no wonder there are only stones around here then. Cariel notes that even if she goes, there won't be any small, cute golems. Akela asks why, and Cariel explains that because they're naturally occurring golems, mages and sorcerers use their own mana, so size and such are limited. However, naturally occurring golems are born from massive, pure magic stones. This mine produces many magic stones, so natural golems appear. That's why it's called the Forest of Golems. But he wonders what the exact reason for coming to the Forest of Golems is. Somewhere else, a bandit trudges through the same halls, thinking that they are always making him do groundwork. He will endure it since he is the youngest, but this is really annoying. Suddenly, he sees the group, and he didn't expect to see anyone, but just in case, they should pass on quickly. Reina listens to the hero's explanation, who is saying that the suspicious groups have come and gone from this place, with their appearance being white masks, dressed in hooded robes, and carrying bags, just like the guy that passed them, the bandits. He just sheepishly looks at them for a bit before bolting, wondering why the hell they are even chasing him. Eventually, he ends up in a dead end with nowhere to go. Akela guesses that it's better for him to surrender, but the bandit just laughs, saying things will not go as easily as he thinks, making Akela have a bit of a sense of déjà vu about what he saw in the mine. Suddenly, though, a naturally occurring golem appears, with the bandit explaining that he is the one who lured them here. Reina is surprised that the golems are so big, and Cariel explains that it's okay. Natural golems do not attack people first. Akela wonders though, is that thing asking for a high five or something? Cariel looks up and sees that its palm is open, and it's descending onto them. crushing the entire area with ease. They begin running away, with Reina noting that he said it wouldn't attack, but it's doing the opposite. Akela, seeing that it's pushing forward, plants his body down and pushes against the golem's hand, stopping it for a bit. He asks Cariel if he can assess the current situation, and he guesses that it's the core. Someone must be controlling the golem's core. Akela understands that he will need to divert the enemy's attention elsewhere. Somewhere else, another bandit knows that the golem's right arm is being blocked by something, and another bandit tells him to attack with the left if that's the case. He turns around, wondering what those guys even are. Could they be sent by the royal government? However, seeing through the golem's eye, he sees that it was just one guy who blocked it. He tells the one controlling the golem to aim for the one on top of its arm. The golem holds its left hand still and raises its right one toward Akela, thinking that from the earlier counterattack, he felt that if he clashed head-on, he would be in danger. Then he has no choice but to use a different method. He begins rushing onto the golem's left arm, and as soon as the right one reaches him slowly, he ducks under it, vaulting slightly, and gets right through it, shocking both his group and the bandits. The one controlling it is surprised that he is planning to climb up onto the golem's arm and wonders what they should do. Should they go out and fight? The other one denies it. Golem users like them do not need to fight directly, because after all, they have more than one golem, and these ones are much smaller and faster than the large one, right? Cariel tells Reina they should chase after that suspicious person they were originally pursuing, but this is what he dreamed of in his childhood, a hero's battle. Akela rushes through the small golems, with one of them unleashing an energy attack that he swiftly dodges. The other one steps forward, preparing to unleash another blast, but Akela grabs his sword swiftly and puts it right through the golem, taking it out. The other, more burly golem charges in with its fists, but Akela simply jumps as it tries to punch him and puts his blade right in the golem's opening, where its neck is, and slices, taking off its head cleanly and letting it fly in the air helplessly. One of the bandits inside the golem is shocked to see a top-tier golem defeated so easily. Just who is this guy? Since even the golems are useless, they have no choice but to run or hold out. Before they can think of anything more, they feel a presence, and they both look at the opening, and there they see that Akela has arrived. He was wondering where they were hiding out. It seems that they were behind the golem all this time, huh? Cariel chases after the low-tier bandit, telling him to stop and let him inspect the bag, but the bandit knows that he is just a low-level nobody. He only does deliveries, so why are they chasing after him? Cariel tells Reina to bind his legs since the gap isn't closing, and she explains that she doesn't know how to use two spells simultaneously. Cariel tells her to then ride right on his back and cast magic. Reina is immediately shocked, noting that perhaps for a moment it would be fine. Cariel then notes that he has an even better idea. He will ride the broomstick, and she controls it. But why does she look like that? Does she have a fever or something? She says it's nothing, and the low-level bandit wonders if he shook them off after a while. He stops to catch his breath, but that's when he sees Cariel charging in on the broom like a wizard, his entire focus on the bandit in front of him, who cannot react as Cariel just charges into him and punts them both through the wall. Cariel catches his breath, but as he does so, the low-tier bandit tries to punch him. Cariel naturally dodges the punch and grabs the bandit's shirt before putting him to the ground. He tries to get up, but Cariel unleashes another deadly punch, knocking him out. After that, Cariel is glad to see that they've secured the bag, and Reina comes, wondering if he's okay, as she controlled it a little too recklessly. Cariel is glad to see her, and asks if she threw him on purpose like that out of spite, his entire shoulder aching. Reina immediately denies this, a little sheepish, claiming that there's no way she would do something like that, and clutches her arm, which is clearly shaking a little, likely injured. Cariel grabs it, asking if she hurt her hand anywhere. She explains that she injured it before when she overdid it in the labyrinth, and she still has after effects. It's a wound that looks like a burn, so that's why the flight magic earlier was so clumsy. Suddenly she sees him using divine power and notes that she already received treatment at the cathedral, so he doesn't really need to do anything. Cariel notes that it's better than nothing. She got hurt because she pushed herself for his sake back then, and he's sorry about what he said earlier, even if it was a joke. Reina says it's okay, and thanks him for worrying about her. That's when Cariel is surprised that the bandit is awake, but the bandit notes he's been awake for a while. They just didn't notice because they were busy being lovey-dovey and all. Cariel holds up the bag he was carrying and asks him to explain what the items in this bag are used for, but the low-tier bandit insists he already told him 3 times. Suddenly, a figure crashes through where they are. It's Akela, who explains that he found the enemy's location. However, they're just holed up with barrier magic in an enclosed space. If they force their way through, and the enemy dies, they won't get any sort of information. Cariel guesses that it would be best to create a situation where they cannot use the barrier magic, and asks Reina if there is magic that prevents someone else from using it, like a silence spell. Reina guesses there is, but she cannot use it. Cariel looks around, wondering if there is another way. But wait a minute, this place is a warehouse used by the workers, right? They have various miscellaneous items like flour, and that might be the key. He looks at Reina, noting that when he saw her injury earlier, it looked like a burn mark. What's the reason for that? Reina explains that it's from using magic excessively. Her hands get pretty hot. Heat is generated when using magic, and even magic circles cause burns if one touches them. This is exactly what Cariel wanted to know. He can create a situation where those bastards cannot use magic. The people on the back of the golem claim that today is the day that person is supposed to come, so if they just keep holding out, they have the advantage anyway. Suddenly, though, a bag of flour is thrown into their room, with one of them noting that they are trying to blind them, but that won't matter at all. The other, however, notices that this is flour, and tells the other to stop and not use any magic, or it will explode. Akela steps in, noting that, thanks to his guide, he learned, but they probably know it too. When heat meets dust particles, or flour, in this case, a dust explosion occurs, and mana is also heat. So if they still want to fight in this situation, he will not stop them, but he should warn them. They probably won't enjoy being baked. The senior bandit wonders what they should do, but he closes his eyes, noting that the only option now is to surrender. Somewhere else, somewhere very nearby, a being of malice appears, claiming it's about time to make their move. Another figure, hooded and with bleached white hair, beside the malevolent one, notes that seeing there are no more sorcerers to be found in the forest. They were a step too late. The malevolent figure says it does not matter. They will always be 2 steps ahead. As they ride out in a carriage, Cariel thinks that it's fortunate the enemies surrendered without holding out. If they had not, they would have had to shed blood. A few hours ago, Akela interrogated them. They were saying they corrupted the golems with these items in the bags. The senior bandit confirmed that. Akela asks if the corrupted parts can be separated or purified with divine power, and the bandit leader confirms as such. With this, Akela purified the corrupted golems, and then sent the sorcerers to the cathedral for more investigation. Since everything has ended well, perhaps he will get some rest now too, since Reina is sleeping as well. Suddenly though, a voice screams out to stop the carriage, and for everyone to get down, and let themselves be tied up obediently, if they want their lives, that is. The carriage rider is surprised to see bandits, and Akela gets out, with the bandit leader confusing him with a knight. Akela notes that's pretty rude. He's a hero. The bandit leader notes that he's a pretty amusing one, but if that's the case, this side has hostages. If he so much as shows any signs of attacking, these hostages will immediately die. Cariel wonders what they should do, and Akela notes that he doesn't think they need to move and provoke them unnecessarily. One of the bandits notes that they're just chattering uselessly. He can see that they are racking their brains for an answer that they don't have. Suddenly, though, another shadowy figure appears from behind the one that was talking. His helmet is suspiciously similar to that of the heroes. The bandit leader, seeing that they are being attacked from behind, immediately moves in to kill one of the hostages. But just as she is about to be stabbed, the shadowy figure cuts his hand and then kills him on the spot. Another immediately moves into another hostage, but that's when Akela moves in, striking him in the chest and taking down the bandits with practiced ease. After they are done with them, Akela crouches down to the girl who was about to be stabbed, petting her on the head, noting that everyone is safe now. Reina walks through the corpses, not liking the smell of blood, and Cariel himself has a look of what seems to be either disgust or some kind of indignation. Reina notes that they should be getting to the carriage now and leave the smell behind. Cariel agrees. But what about the hero? He sees him bowing to the 2 villagers who were taken and letting them go free towards their village. Cariel wonders where the other one went. He is right in their carriage and apologizes for the late introduction. He is a hero called Ram. He holds the epithet of Shadow. By the way, Akela helped him greatly in becoming a hero. Cariel, Reina, and Cariel also introduced themselves, with Cariel thinking that Ram was already in the carriage but to meet 2 heroes already. How fascinating it is. Reina finds something strange though. Why are there multiple heroes? She whispers towards Cariel for an explanation, who guessed she might not have known if she wasn't that interested. The hero she is thinking of is one who fights the Demon King, right? The kind of hero who is chosen by the Holy Sword. On the other hand, regular heroes are superhuman beings who receive titles from the king, or think of themselves as national representatives. Ram confirms as such. At the same time, they receive epithets matching their abilities. The reason his epithet is Shadow is that he excels at assassinations and infiltration rather than combat. Reina wonders what epithet Akela has, and he explains that he has the epithet of the Pursuer. He excels in tracking and physical abilities. Cariel also explains that it's not just two heroes who have them. There are epithets like Berserker, and even Grudge. Reina's brain is a little wrecked. Suddenly, too much information comes into her head, and it hurts. So, to summarize, titled heroes carry out King's orders. Holy Sword heroes aim to kill the Demon King, but both types of heroes have honor and symbolism, and their essence is basically the same. And cases of misunderstanding like hers earlier happened because Holy Sword heroes are popular due to the heroic tales of the Demon King being slain, while the activities of the titled heroes can't be known well, unless one looks at them directly right. Akela notes that she hit it in the bull's eye. Cariel notes that he would like to see all the heroes at least once. Ram notes that he is lucky. Then, he might see them in the future because all heroes will be active in the upcoming Holy Sword recovery operation. Cariel is surprised to hear this, but a Holy Sword only appears when a Demon King is born, right? Reina wonders if a Demon King will appear soon. Ram knows he messed up because he let out too much information. Ram sheepishly tells them that it's a joke. He swears on his name as a hero, and begins laughing pretty shakily. Both of them wonder why he is so strange. Akela asks what he is doing right now. Anyway, he was going to speak slowly because he was worried they might have misunderstood, like just now. They don't need to worry about a Demon King appearing again. Cariel knows this too. The Demon King is already dead. Thinking too deeply about it will just cause a headache. They should just focus on what's ahead, right? They arrive at their designated spot, with Cariel asking what this case is about, and whether it is related to why they joined up with Ram. Akela confirms that the case they will face this time is a series of disappearances occurring inside the forest. This forest is shrouded in a deep darkness, day or night. For that reason, they joined up with Ram, who is accustomed to darkness, so they should go to the village that requested help first, and then move out. As they walk, Reina sees Cariel stopping, and asks why he's not moving. Cariel wonders about the disappearance case. The disappearances are probably the work of monsters, right? He didn't figure something out or anything, but the enemies they've met were first bandits, then sorcerers, and now robbers. They've been facing only people instead of monsters. Is it just a coincidence? Reina asks why it matters in the first place. Solving the case is what's most important. Why is he worried? Guides aren't particularly needed when dealing with people. They cornered sorcerers easily thanks to him. Cariel agrees, and begins following her, but wonders what he is worrying about since earlier. There's no way people would do such things in a dark forest like this. This is probably the work of monsters, probably? No, it definitely is. They make their way towards the village, which is pretty dilapidated looking and sad, considering the sun does not shine there much at all. Suddenly, the village residents appear with the elder shaking hands with Akela, thanking him for his hard work coming such a long way. They should rest for today as they've prepared rooms for them. Akela shakes his hand, and notes that they need to move as soon as possible, so they will just do a simple investigation for today. With that, he and Ram begin writing on parchment, with the first person being a woman. Ram tells her to give them a brief self-introduction, and she explains that she is Nora. She worked at a restaurant, and has a son, or had one. He went missing in the forest 2 days ago. Ram asks if she could explain the circumstances of the disappearance, and after standing still for a bit, she tells them that exactly 3 days ago, when they were passing through the forest, knowing that this forest has had a series of disappearances over the past few months, she was holding her son's hand tightly as they passed through. However, even though she was holding his hand for sure, the child disappeared. Akela asks if he suddenly just vanished from her eyes, and Nora notes that, more precisely, she thinks she lost consciousness after hearing some sound. When she came to, the child was gone. It was a pretty weird song. It was like a monster song. On the other side, Reina and Cariel do some investigation too, interrogating one person. This village's name is Mark. What he would know about this situation would be when he entered the forest to look for a missing person. He wandered around the forest all day but did not get any results, but he did see at least part of the monster's face. Surprisingly though, he explains it had a snake's tail, and definitely the legs of a chicken. After getting information, Reina and Cariel know that after cross-referencing their findings, they roughly figured out what the monster is. The monster is definitely a basilisk, says Reina. A siren, says Cariel. Cariel tells her that she should listen to him since he's the guide, and Reina notes that she might not. He might not know, but magic school has monster classes in general education. Ram tells them not to fight over it, as it doesn't matter what kind of monster it is, right? They need to enter the forest tomorrow, so they should all go to their lodgings. The next day, Reina wonders if she has a cold as her nose is a bit stuffy. Cariel sees this and asks if she's sick, and she notes that he doesn't look great either. Is he nervous? It might not be a siren. Cariel says it's not that. He just couldn't sleep well. It's because of nothing, though. After thinking all night, this case involves behavior impossible for humans. He should be relieved, I guess. The heroes arrive at the spot too, and tell them not to forget their purpose is to find a child and an enemy little monster. With that, they will be going inside. After doing so, Akela explains that they will split into groups from here. He and Akela will be going right, while Reina and Cariel will be going left. While they continue walking, Cariel marks the places they've investigated, so they can tell where they've been. Akela tells Ram that there is a faint smell of blood in this forest, but the direction is pretty ambiguous. Ram notes that they should look for the lake first. Can he tell which direction it's in by the blood? By the smell? Akela does point him to it, and Ram jumps in, noting that he will check it first. Ram has the ability to interact with shadows. He can also travel by riding shadows, so this is pretty fast for him. He knows full well that for a siren to exist, there needs to be some kind of body of water, but it seems that this lake is almost completely dried up, with only a few drops of water left in it. After a bit more looking, Reina gets bored as they've been looking up and down, but nothing's come up. Cariel agrees. They've been looking for quite a bit, but there is one place they have not searched yet. That would be up there. The trees in this forest have such a huge circumference that even the branches are pretty enormous. Countless branches intertwine and can even form a complete other layer. So, this is why the forest is dark, and there are claw marks on the bark of the trees too. This looks like the traces of a basilisk climbing up a tree. But who is going to climb up and investigate? He looks at Reina, who already knows what she needs to do, and goes on her broom. Cariel tells her that she can calm down if she is scared, but she says it's fine, even though it's scary. She sees a gap through the layer, and notes that she should investigate it. She grabs it and makes her way through it, but then sees something that looks very similar to a corpse head. She immediately pulls her head back out, thinking that perhaps it was just her imagination, and she gathers up her courage, noting that she will go on the count of 3. On 3, she immediately makes her way back and sees nothing this time, but it's a little different too, as she cannot see even a single thing. It's as if it's cut off from other places entirely. Because magic school strictly enforces curfew, model students like Reina were not accustomed to night at all, her eyes not being adjusted to it at all. Only the moonlit tree branches indicate the forest's boundaries. So, it's not complete darkness. She makes an orb of light, but keeps it dim so as not to attract too much attention. As she continues making her way through the upper layer, she gets increasingly more afraid, and wonders if she could always hear her heartbeat so clearly, and her footsteps are loud too. Though Reina was conscious of even small actions due to tension, she was missing one other important thing. She wasn't properly using her sense of smell at all. That's when, though, she discovered a smell. A disgusting smell that she shouldn't get used to, but somehow became familiar with. It's the smell of corpses. She immediately freezes upon sensing it, as this was definitely here from the beginning. So why didn't she notice it? Could it be because of her cold symptoms? The silence is getting to her, and she thinks she needs to get out and report back to Cariel, as he will know what to do. As she walks, though, her foot snags on something, and she puts the light orb to it, but she can't really make out what it is. She powers up the light orb a bit more, and her heart stops as she sees that it's a head. Her heart continues hammering, and she tries to make a sound, but then immediately crouches down and puts her hands over her mouth. Reina's heart no longer made that quiet sound of beating. Instead, it pounded like a drum. That sound felt so loud that it might even leak out. So Reina stayed crouched in that spot for a very long time. After she calmed herself properly so that she could walk, she let out a sigh of relief and stilled herself. They should get out of here right away. But even though she calmed down, this thumping sound of her heart has not stopped yet. As she looks forward, though, she sees that, unfortunately, she was never truly alone in this place. Reina's breath catches as she knows she made eye contact with something, but she doesn't know what kind of monster it is. Her body does not respond to her anymore. Is it the physical reaction, or the monster's ability? She thinks of using defensive magic first, and she will run away. But when should she run away? Right now? She decides the moment a bead of sweat drops down her face. She turns around, aiming to run away, but it's already too late. as the monster snags her. Down below, Cariel paces, as it's been about 10 minutes since Reina went up there. Wasn't she supposed to be just investigating? Why isn't she coming down? This won't work either. He needs to join up with the heroes and go up together. Suddenly, though, he hears a sudden explosion sound above, and the heroes hear it too. From above, Reina seems to be falling down, and he wonders why she is here, and more importantly, he cannot lose her. He immediately rushes in and catches her, asking if she's okay, but it's pretty damn clear that she's not, as she is bleeding lightly from her head, and her expression is that of horror mixed with exhaustion. Cariel's eyes widen as he wonders just what the hell happened, but it doesn't matter now. First, he needs to get her treated. As they walk, Reina explains that the monster got her, and Cariel tells her not to waste her breath. She can speak slowly. After getting her back to the village and patched up, she explains that while she was investigating the upper part of the forest, she got hurt. Ram asks if she had an encounter with the monster, and she thinks so. The moment she got caught by the monster, she used defensive magic and passed out. The monster was carrying her in its mouth somewhere. She waited for a chance, and broke through the forest with magic and escaped. Akela apologizes if this question seems rude, but he asks Cariel why the monster didn't just eat her. He guesses that it's likely it was storing her in its territory while keeping her under an illusion. That's how a basilisk stores its prey. Akela thinks that they need to quickly find the missing child. They're going right up to the forest canopy. Will he come too? Cariel agrees, noting that he might be of some use. But as they leave, Reina looks at him, noting that he has to come back alive, and he nods, telling her not to worry. A guide's reason for existing is probably preventing variables beforehand, after all. He crouches down with the heroes, and explains that before they go in, they should allow him to explain about the basilisks. Ram notes that basilisks have the evil eye of petrification, right? Cariel confirms as such, but abilities and countermeasures are all different depending on the legend and environment. The basilisks here use illusion, not petrification. They just need to be careful of their gaze. Also, depending on whether it simply has a snake's tail, or if a snake is attached, it's sometimes classified as a cockatrice. Looking at monsters from a different perspective than ordinary adventurers, reassembling them after breaking them down to reduce variables is the guide's role. Besides this, they also have knowledge of hunting, monsters, and dungeon ecosystems, so guides tend to work well with mages. He said he thinks so grandly, but it's true that the guides are just weak and are compensating. They climb up to the place where Reina was with Akela, never expecting a place to be so big up in the trees. But the monster smell is definitely thicker here, the smell of chicken and snake. Ram continues, it doesn't seem to be just one or two. Just as there are grades for adventurers, the same goes for beasts and monsters. Basically, they are divided into lower, middle, and upper monsters, which beginner, intermediate, and advanced adventurer parties can handle respectively. In the case of basilisk, their fusion of snake and chicken. Thanks to the illusion through gaze, Chimera's characteristics are regular movement and a body with no real weak points. It is undoubtedly classified as an upper-class monster. One descends on Cariel, aiming to take off his head. He tries to move his body, but he can't, just like when he was a child. Before the basilisk can snap his head though, Akela pushes him away and puts his blade through the basilisk's mouth before cutting it perfectly in half, his blade easily ripping through its flesh. He asks Cariel if he's alright, and to please leave the fight to them. Ram also notes that there are several more coming their way, so Cariel should go and find the child. He agrees and crouches down behind one of the trees, thinking that he cannot be the deadweight following along who is not helpful at all. He wants to watch the situation a bit more first, then go look for the missing boy. One of the basilisks charges through at Ram, pinning him, but he is fine. He does not make eye contact, just as Cariel said, and smashes his knife into the basilisk's eye, going further to go to its brain and killing it. He sees something surprising, as this basilisk does not seem to have a tail at all. Before he can think about it more, another appears from behind, and screeches at him as it charges. Ram immediately smashes his fist into it a bunch of times, but for some reason, it begins regenerating. Cariel himself is shocked as well. Basilisks definitely do not have any regeneration abilities. Is it an illusion? But he can see it from far away as well. He does not know the cause, but for regenerating monsters, the weak point is the heart. He screams at Ram to run, telling him to aim for the heart immediately. He pins the basilisk's wings and pulls it down, allowing Akela to rush in and smash his blade right into the basilisk's heart, killing it instantly. Suddenly though, before they can do anything more, that same haunting song begins to play out, the one described by Nora, and Cariel seems to know what it is, but it's something that shouldn't be here at all. This is a siren. Aquila can still feel that he can move his body, and he needs to get out of here quickly, but that's when he is met with the eyes of a basilisk, and he cannot move anymore. Cariel thinks that this is crazy. How can something like that exist here? How is that even possible? Just how? How can a siren be up above and nowhere near water? The song she is playing now is putting him more and more under its spell. He needs to stay focused as his vision is getting fuzzy. Before he can fall asleep, he smacks his own ears roughly as he needs to get it together. He cannot stop here. Not yet. It seems that his eardrums have burst from his attacks, but it doesn't matter, as he can definitely get it fixed later. This would be something that would make someone wince in pain, but Cariel's face is resolute. Aquila can't move at all, and remains in place as the basilisk slowly opens its demonic mouth and lunges toward the helmet. Just before it snaps its beak, though, Cariel jumps in and saves him, asking if he's okay. Aquila gets the spell removed from him and says that it's fine. First, they will need to get out of here. Cariel wonders where Ram is, and Aquila notes that he was right next to him. It seems he was put under the song's spell as well. Aquila grabs him, and they go hide for a bit. Ram thanks both of them, as he is alive thanks to them, but wonders if Cariel's ears are okay. Cariel confirms as such. Aquila has healed him with divine power anyway. They need to figure out what that strange chimera is. Ram agrees. Also, that chimera might be able to regenerate as well. It's just like that basilisk from earlier. Above all, there is the siren song and the basilisk vision too. He cannot deal with those two attacks at the same time. Aquila asks if it can regenerate. They need to aim for its heart, but where is the monster's heart? Or does it have two? Cariel thinks about it. The heart should be somewhere in the middle. Basilisks are a mix between a snake and a chicken, but the main body is definitely a chicken. There is no way there is a heart in the snake part. But if it's a siren basilisk fusion, which one is the main body? But is that even possible to begin with? Even earlier, weird stuff happened with the golems as well, right? So there might be a way to solve this just like before. If he thinks about it a little more, just a little more, he is definitely missing something here. It's something extremely basic. Aquila notes that they should leave the thinking to the guide and come up with a plan. Ram points at the map because, looking at it, to reach the siren, they have to pass tons of basilisks, so they probably can't withstand all those mental attacks at once. One person should be bait to buy time, and the other should target the siren. Ram asks Aquila how his sword works, and he explains that he charges his sword with divine power, and then releases all the sword power at once. There is still some divine power left in the sword. Ram notes that he will take the bait roll then, and Aquila guesses he will only get one chance too, but alright, he will go for the siren from behind. They both look at Cariel and wonder if he figured out which part is the main body. Cariel nods. There is no time, so he will tell them right away. With this plan in mind, Ram steps out, noting that it's pretty late at night. It's the perfect stage for beasts like them. Well, he guesses it's not really fitting for heroes. The basilisks charge at him, and he unleashes a bunch of strikes with his cloak at one, before another jumps in and tries to eat him, but he immediately redirects his cloak and cuts the basilisk in two. He looks the siren dead in the eye, and something changes as he faintly hears her song. He rushes in, taking out 3 basilisks. Ram aims directly for the siren, using his cloak to stab it through the chest. He thinks he stabbed it. However, the pressure on his body snapped him out of his dream, as he was below 2 basilisks. He wonders when he got here, and Aquila, using this opportunity, charges from the side. Completely ignoring the basilisks and looking to strike the siren directly, Cariel told him previously that the part he should go for is the basilisk's side, and he does so, shattering it utterly with his divine sword. This seems to have done the trick, as the spell on Ram is broken, and he is able to eradicate the basilisk that is charging towards him. Cariel moves around, thinking that the missing child should be in the first place where they store food. The smell is strong from this direction, and he eventually finds it. He sees that it's mostly just corpses. However, there is a small boy right there. He moves in to save him quickly, but that's when he is met with another basilisk who seems to have been guarding their food storage. He looks at the basilisk and then at the boy. The child is about 10 steps ahead, so he can definitely make it. Suddenly, when the snake tail charges in, he ducks under it and grabs the child before running away frantically. He knows he cannot outrun a basilisk, so there definitely must be another way. He sees a basilisk corpse in front, the one that Aquila pierced with his sword through the heart, and vaults over it before standing right behind it. the other basilisk charges in, heavily stepping on his fallen comrade, and this causes both of them to fall down due to their sheer weight. However, Cariel had not calculated that the wood below him would also shatter, and he is in danger of falling down as well. Just before the basilisk crashed down, he grabbed onto a branch, holding himself and the boy up. He knows that the boy takes priority and tries to pull him up further and further. However, the branch snaps right as he grips it tighter. He resigns to his fate, closing his eyes. However, that's when he is grabbed by an armored hand. It's Ram who asks if he's all right, and who looks a little worse for wear than before. Clearly, this battle has taken a lot out of all of them, except their lives. Fortunately, they rescued the missing child without any other casualties, and the disappearance case in the forest was thus resolved. Cariel, after this, is sleeping pretty soundly, with Reyna noting that she cast a spell before leaving, poking at his cheek, thinking that he should be awake by now. Nora approaches Ram, who is close by, and notes that their village prepared food and gifts as a token of their gratitude, so they wanted to ask if he would please attend. She also wonders why it's getting darker and darker. Ram tells her not to worry too much about it. It's like a chronic condition of his. Nora understands, and she will assume that he is attending then, and he must also bring his guide friend. Ram confirms he will pass it along and breathes a sigh of relief. That's when Akila approaches and asks if he's listening. Ram apologizes, as he was lost in thought for a moment, and asks if the results from examining the monster's corpse came in. Akela says that they did, but he is not here for that. Could they talk a moment? They go into an alleyway, and Akela begins talking about this case, and, more specifically, about the future. Before coming here, he handled a case where a golem attacked people. The truth was that their cores were corrupted to make them act as monsters, and this time, they have a bizarre case of monsters fusing. From the investigation, the connection point between the siren and the basilisks was similar to the object that corrupted the golems around. Both cases were done by the same organization, and the probability of that has become quite high. What he wants to talk about now is the main point, the relationship between the Demon King and the Holy Sword. True prophecy or phenomena, like black clouds covering the sky, they can tell that the Demon King will soon appear. At the same time, the Holy Sword also reveals its location and position through prophecy. Like this, the two have an inseparable relationship. This is not exactly precise, but a Demon King and the Holy Sword appear roughly every 100 years. It's been like a law and promise that has continued to be fulfilled, except once before, hero Perchun killed 2 Demon Kings. Perchun first defeated a Demon King 30 years ago, and the second was defeated 10 years ago. Something must have happened in between then. He wasn't a hero then, so he doesn't know exactly. Ram wonders if he is saying the law was broken because of Perchun, but Akela says that was just the Demon King appearing unexpectedly one more time. Akela explains that he is not blaming Perchun specifically. It's just that, after 2 Demon King defeats, what they thought was a law became meaningless, meaning that it wouldn't be strange if a Demon King or a Holy Sword appeared again tomorrow, or earlier basically. Ram guesses that everything he is saying is speculation, and Akela confirms as such. He has no proof. He doesn't really know what's happening or how either, but there is one thing he can say for certain. This Holy Sword recovery operation will be different from the operations they have known of. At the Royal Palace Vinat, someone tells Perchun that everything is ready, as they will depart soon. This is Perchun, the hero of the previous era, but he no longer looks the part. He stands there like a hollowed-out shell, less a legendary hero, and more a lingering shadow of a man. Ram goes back to the inn, thinking that he suddenly has a lot more things to think about, like the Holy Sword recovery, and the bizarre monsters and such. Suddenly he meets with Cariel, who is awake. He asks how he is feeling, and Cariel notes that he is good. The heroes did all the work after all, so what did he do? Ram notes that it is so, making Cariel fall silent. Ram emphasizes that he was joking. They couldn't have done it without him after all. After that, they both laugh off the awkwardness, and Ram wonders if it's okay if they could have a little chat. Cariel confirms as such, and Ram takes him to a nearby restaurant. After they sit down, Ram notes that he has been wanting to ask something. He is just curious about it. When they caught that siren, why did they have to target the basilisk specifically? Cariel notes that they were in a rush, so he did not get to explain. Thinking about it, it was a pretty simple problem. The part where chimeras do their biological activities is the main body, but there is no way a siren that breathes through its gills could be the main body in a forest with literally no lake. Ram understands. If he thinks about it, it really is a pretty simple problem. Cariel notes he was just lucky he was right, but he also wants to ask a question if he could. When he dealt with those bandits before, when Akela was greeting people, he went into the carriage. He wondered if he was shy, but that did not seem to be the case, so he thought there might be a reason. If it's a difficult thing to answer, they should drop it, as he really doesn't want to pry too much. Ram says it's really not that. He asks if they remember their first meeting, and Cariel does, when they encountered the bandits, right? Ram confirms as such. He thinks he was quite surprised it all happened so suddenly, right? Many people admire and worship the heroes as something holier than thou, but people don't really know what's behind the helmet. After becoming a hero, what he has done is, for the sake of saving countless people, killing monsters, killing bandits, and killing people. That's everything he has been doing. Then, suddenly he had a thought. When he takes off this helmet of his, the helmet of a hero, he is just a killing machine made to just kill. After having that thought, he became afraid of taking off his helmet, and thus became afraid of people's gazes, the eyes of people who admire him, and see only the hero facade would simply pass over him. In the end, the method he chose was to hide in the shadows and run away so that nobody could gaze on him, because he knows his real self is different from what people usually expect. It is not that he hates people, it's the opposite actually. That is why he kept his distance, because he could not approach with these blood-stained hands. He apologizes if this seemed like a ramble or something. It's something he's thought about alone, so he appreciates him listening to him so much. Cariel thinks that he has only admired heroes by seeing just one side of them, but it seems that they also each have their own darkness, just like any human out there. However, he explains that his admiration for heroes remains the same. As he said, the essence of a hero is to be more than a human. He thinks there's a big difference between simply killing someone and killing someone to save other people. He doesn't deny the dark side of heroes that he mentioned, but he doesn't rationalize it. He just continues to struggle with it. This is just his opinion after all, but the closer he gets to the light, the darker the shadow becomes, isn't it? That means even as he faces deep darkness, he simultaneously is moving toward an even brighter place. He's just looking in one direction, but if he turns his head just a bit and looks around, he believes there is a bright light there, created by his deep shadow, a light that he can bask in, so he should not think too much in just one direction. Ram saved him yesterday as well. Ram remains silent for a bit, and thanks him for those kind words. He never heard anyone else say something like that before. As they continue talking, someone who has been listening to their conversation lets out a loud sigh, thinking that their words are utterly ridiculous. After finishing their conversation, Cariel's group leaves the village and says farewell to Ram, with only Cariel crying about it. As Ram walks, he feels like he forgot something pretty important. Did he leave something behind? It seems so, as the villagers prepared some cake and gifts for them, but they just kinda left. Anyway, he shouldn't forget why he became a hero in the first place. It was to help people. He should be more like his brother and sister. Suddenly, though, he hears a blood-curdling scream from the forest. If he investigates now, he might be late for the Holy Sword recovery operation, but he should not hesitate further. He has to go. He did not become a hero just to recover some old sword. Akela goes to the great cathedral to hear some prophecies about the Holy Sword recovery, and Cariel and Reina decide to look around the town in the meantime. He notes that they should buy what they need separately, and meet back here. Reina wonders if they really need to go separately, and she looks at him, remembering that he was the one who carried her to safety. With a small blush on her face, she thinks that if he is okay with it, they should go around together. But Cariel is already absorbed in a magazine store, asking if they have any hero-related ones. Reina just throws her hand in the air. This guy would be more interested in heroes than in anything else after all. Cariel picks up a magazine and begins reading. Hero Pertune, giving his holy sword to his disciple Asanya, was quite a while ago. He then stumbles upon an article on the Holy Sword recovery prophecies about holy swords. They are divided into two parts. The first prophecy tells people that a holy sword will appear. The second one tells them where the holy sword will appear. Heroes received a second prophecy at nearby cathedrals and go to the location that matched the prophecy. Once they recover the holy sword and return it to the royal government, the operation is considered complete. Just as he thought then, the next one is about Pertune, right? Just then, the figure who had listened to his and Ram's conversation steps behind him, seemingly approaching. Meanwhile, Ram, who was investigating the forest, wonders what he heard. He came pretty deep, but there are no traces of monsters. He should head back soon. Suddenly, though, a monstrous hand lunges towards his neck and grabs him tightly. Ram wonders what he should do about this, but this is not just a simple monster after all. Ram immediately stabs the monster in the hand that was holding his neck. allowing him to be free. He knows that his throat almost got torn out. So this is him, another problem element alongside that mysterious group. This is a Blood Knight. The Blood Knight recognizes him as Hero Ram. This is good, very good. Without as much as a warning, he lunges forward and unleashes the devastating strike onto Ram, who puts his hands up to defend, but he is shocked by the force he endured. The Blood Knight does not stop there, and lunges with his claws, but Ram gets under his strike and flows upward. The Blood Knight notes that he is living up to his shadow epithet. Those petty tricks of his serve him really well. Ram thinks that he heard about the Blood Knight. He's only heard the name though. He has no other information other than that he targets heroes. The Blood Knight hopes that he's not just running away. He seems like he is thinking quite a bit. Ram thinks that for now, he has no other choice but to keep his distance and look for an opening. So he begins flowing through the darkness of the nearby trees, becoming one with it. The Blood Knight notes that, fortunately, running away doesn't seem to be something he does frequently, huh? Seeing him with his back turned, Ram explosively but silently lunges forward, aiming to stab the Blood Knight in the back. However, the Blood Knight begins to convulse as he leans down lightly, and something from his chest bursts with power, allowing spider-like pincers to come out of his back and reach the nearby area, cutting the trees down with zero resistance. Ram immediately stops his strike. He noticed that his armor transformed suddenly and shot out sword energy. Is this a technique used by explosively circulating all the blood inside his body? If he waits for an opportunity from far away, he will get caught instead, so he can't avoid a frontal battle like this. The Blood Knight notes that he cannot use his little tricks any further. He should not think it will be over if he runs away either. There are several others who can take his place after all. Ram tells him not to worry about something like that. He just threw away the idea of hiding and leaving a few hours ago after all. The Blood Knight grins. He wasn't expecting much from him in the first place. Then, he will become a trophy worth bragging about. Meanwhile, on Cariel's side, that strange person from before asks him if he likes heroes, and Cariel confirms that he does like them a lot. Isn't it harder to find people who don't like heroes? The person notes that they don't personally like them, and Cariel asks if there is a reason. It is because reality is different from what they thought. Cariel doesn't really understand what they mean, and the person notes that they will answer with a question. They point him in a direction, and note that those children there are playing in the clearing. At first glance, they seem to be playing together, right? A child with nice clothes who grew up in a good environment and is loved by everyone is at the center of the group, while the child with dirty clothes and a skinny appearance is the one separated from the group. If a situation arose where he could only save one of them, who would he save? Cariel seems a bit stunned by the question, but then very confidently says that he would save both of them. The person laughs, as that's exactly the answer they were expecting. Most people who encounter heroes through heroic tales like that say such things. Like people who seem like they could save the world with words, right? Hero stories are always really bright. Someone gets saved, and they themselves get saved as well. Cariel agrees. That is why so many people like them after all. The person notes, however, that reality is different. People who couldn't be saved aren't highlighted in the stories in the first place. That is why they are so bright. In the end, since one can't save everyone when the moment of choice comes, it is already decided who to save and who to abandon. These things happen outside of these heroic tales. Cariel denies it, claiming that they do not consider conditions when saving others. Rather, they save people while pushing themselves to the limits. The person grits their teeth, noting that they cannot communicate, but it is all right. Actually, he overheard yesterday his conversation with one of the heroes, so they naturally became curious about what choice he would make. Cariel wonders what the hell they are talking about, and the person notes that actions are louder than words. This time, they will show him true actions, not questions. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the person lets out a dark tendril and grabs that yellow-haired child. Cariel immediately moves in to intercept, but the person puts him down too, on his knees, to everyone's shock. After grabbing the child with the poor disposition, the person tells Cariel to choose. Who will he save, and who will he abandon? Now they can finally communicate a bit, right? Can he feel even a little of the reality they were talking about? Cariel pushes himself, wanting to move, but then Reina comes, noting that she has to save both, after all, and unleashes a magic circle right under the mysterious person. She didn't know that such words would come from her mouth, but she guessed it rubbed off on her from that idiot they are pinning down. With that, she unleashes a devastating strike on the mysterious person, aiming to make them let go of their hostages. Sure enough, it works, with the person now on their knees. Steam and smoke are coming out of their body, Cariel immediately moves, despite having been incapacitated moments before, taking out his knife and rushing in. He tries to strike the person and manages it, but Cariel sees something shocking that he doesn't understand. This guy is regenerating instantly without using holy power or healing potions. It's just like the basilisk. Before he can think further, the person snakes out their other arm and hits him in his side. At the same time, Reina tries to unleash another magic attack, but suddenly a bunch of dark tendrils appear from the ground below her and hold her in place. The stranger grabs the poor child in their hands and begins running away to the forest. He immediately thinks of chasing, but Reina stops him, wondering if he really is planning to chase after them. Cariel confirms as such, as they have a kidnapping on their hands, but Reina tells him to calm down. They cannot handle such an opponent like that by themselves. They need to go and find Akela. Akela himself is inside the cathedral. He listens to the words of one of the priests, even through his hero mask. It seems like this is something very sacred, very serious. After he is done, one of the priests tells him that they have the horses ready, so they can leave right away. Akela understands that they should gather the group and head out immediately. At the same time, Cariel and Reina arrive where Akela is. Noting that this is good timing, they need to depart right away. Cariel tells him that something really bad happened right in front of them. A child was kidnapped. Akela wonders who it could be, and Reina tells him it's someone using weird powers with roots and such. Akela asks where they went, and Cariel tells him they escaped inside of the forest, right outside of the village. Akela turns to the priest and asks how big the forest is. The priest explains that it connects straight to the deep woods. It is pretty large, but with his skills, what could take weeks should only take a couple of days. However, he should not forget what mission he is supposed to be doing at this very moment, and there are even more secrets that have not been announced to the public yet. Akela immediately becomes conflicted as he wonders, is this kidnapping connected to the recent incidents? Could it be the Demon King? The law has already been broken after all. This Holy Sword mission might not be normal after all. After a bunch of thinking, he sighs and thinks that he will have to make a choice. Cariel tells him that he thinks the kidnapper is part of a group that deals with monsters, and they are strong. They do not stand a chance. Only he could handle them. Akela slowly turns to them and notes that from this moment forth, what he does is his own choice, so they should please understand, as this is not something he can decide with a group. The strange person stops in an abandoned cabin deep in the woods and seals the door with a few dark roots. The poor child notes that she was just passing by, so could they perhaps let her go? The person caresses the back of her hair, noting that there is nothing to worry about. They did not bring her here to hurt her. Where are her parents anyway? She explains that she doesn't have any. She lives in an orphanage. The person asks if she gets along with her friends, and she doesn't really know. She doesn't think they want to play with her. They tease her for being in an orphanage, and the other kids are already praised for having talent in magic, or being warriors, but she has nothing at all. The person notes that the more they hear about her, the more she sounds just like them. The smiling child wonders if it's so, but then she knows that they are completely different because they have powers, and she doesn't. The person asks if she wants power like this. She could get it too, if she wants. The child, with a bit of hope in her eyes, asks how, and the person tells her that it is pretty simple. However, there is a condition. The child does think about it as much as she can. If she gets powers like this person's, her friends would stop ignoring her, and at school, the teachers would finally praise her. The person leans forward, noting that there is just that condition. The girl says that she will do it if she can have powers like theirs. She will do anything. However, she sees past the cloak that the person was wearing, and she realizes that she has to become a monster, just like them. People like them have no one who will ever save them anyway, so it's not like they are losing anything. With this monster power, she will never need help again. The girl looks down, claiming that this is not why she wants power. She just wants to get along with her friends, and when she is in trouble, the hero will definitely come and save her. The person grits their teeth and grabs her more roughly, more tightly, and tells her that the hero won't save her. There is no such thing as heroes in real life. Before they can continue their tangent, the door suddenly bursts open, and someone arrives, with the person thinking that they really did come to save her. Ram continues his fight against the Blood Knight, who charges in adamantly, but Ram sidesteps his next strike and unleashes one of his own straight into the Blood Knight's head. However, he catches the hidden blade and his fist with his sharp, uneven teeth. Ram uses this as leverage to attack from the other side with his other hand, but the Blood Knight simply puts his hand forward and deflects the entire strike, sending Ram's arm flying. Ram is naturally shocked. It was deflected by the arm. Or just what kind of abilities does this guy have? The The Blood Knight charges in with another strike, which Ram dodges, but his arm suddenly transforms, ripping some of his cloak off as sharp tendrils shoot out. As Ram takes another step back, he is blocked by something, and in this 1-second mistake, the Blood Knight finds his opportunity. He arches his clawed hand upward, slashing Ram's cloak and helmet, and then uses his foot on the foot that got stuck, and breaks it before unleashing another strike with his right hand. Such a devastating strike that it rips off Ram's helmet and most of his cloak. Before starting this fight, he had a vague feeling that what awaits him at the end of this fight is nothing but endless darkness. He did not know who the several others the Blood Knight mentioned were, or why they are doing this. Is this all he can do now? Just pray? Then may light always be with his family, his friends, and all those who stand against evil, and may the light be with that boy until his very end. With a loud crunching sound, Ram's life comes to an end, as brutally as he has killed others. Back at the cabin, the person notes that someone really did come to save her. Unfortunately, it is not the hero, it is just a mere guide. Still, he is glad he wasn't Akela. He didn't think he would follow him all the way here, even bringing a sword he had never used before. Cariel looks down at the sword, and thinks that this sword belongs to Akela, not him. Akela told him that he could not go with him to find the child, shocking Cariel, as he did not understand what he meant. The opponent is so strong that only he can handle them, and most importantly, he is a hero, isn't he? Akela breathed out that name more like a curse than a title, and said that he is a hero, and that is why he cannot go. Recovering the holy sword is a hero's role. Cariel is no fool. He naturally understood what he meant. Rather than saving one child, recovering the holy sword is the path that saves a lot more people. He chose the path that saves everyone. Does that mean he has to make a choice to save only one side, like that bastard said? No, he could not do such a thing. He agreed with Akela. They don't know what variables might occur during the holy sword recovery, and recovering the sword is the hero's role, so he will go and save that child. He turns around, telling Reyna that he is going, and the priest told Akela that this child seems to know quite a bit about the holy sword recovery. He should be careful about what he shares from this moment forth, and they will handle finding the child anyway. Before he left, Akela told him to wait a moment and gave his sword. Cariel did not want to take it at first, but Akela told him not to worry about it. He can recover his blade from anywhere, and he will tell him the prophecy. The prophecy is, at the highest place where eyes meet the mother of monsters, there appears what pierced her child. Cariel closes his eyes a bit, remembering these words as if they were scripture, and asks the person why they kidnapped the child. The person notes that it is not kidnapping in a dictionary sense. They are giving her a choice, aren't they? Cariel tells them that they are a monster pretending to help the weak. Are they trying to make that child become a monster just like them? The person wonders why it matters whether they are a monster or not, if they can save those who are outcasts. Cariel tells them to shut it, as he has had enough. If they really cared about the child, they wouldn't have chosen that method. This is just forcing their values onto them. Is he wrong? The person sighs, noting that everyone has their untold stories, right? Cariel refuses. They are just a monster, in thoughts and actions. All of it. Come to think of it, he was stupid for talking with a monster in the first place. But enough talk. He will give them one more chance to give that child back, and he will promise not to hurt them. The person puts their hand up, noting that his words are far harsher than they initially thought he could say. From the moment someone with special skills like him arrived here so quickly, he naturally expected him to have companions. He immediately blocks a strike from behind that came from Reyna, and Cariel charges in. The person dodges his incoming strike and lashes one of their own right into his chin, something that makes his brain quake inside of his skull. But Cariel refuses to stand down and grips his sword even tighter. At the same time, Reyna flows around the cabin and lashes 3 precise strikes, but the person shields themselves with the roots, which are much more powerful than one would expect. They note that they will show him why becoming a monster isn't all bad. It is actually pretty good. The two look at the root shield, and Cariel tells Reyna that this person is a human fused with a monster, specifically a plant-type monster at that. First, she should focus on using fire magic. After that, he will guide her based on the situation. She agrees, and Cariel is glad she's so quick on the uptake. Then they should go. They begin charging in, with the person unraveling the root shield and putting it around the small girl before taking the roots themselves and transforming them into a deadly serpent-like monster that recognizes its enemies instantly. The beast charges in at Cariel and Reyna, but Cariel sees that its target was not them. It was actually the space around them, as it begins shooting thorns. Cariel defends with his blade, and Reina with her magic before unleashing a pretty powerful fire spell onto the root monster. But she is surprised to see that it barely has any effect, and the beast keeps overwhelming them. Is this person going easy on them, or do they have some kind of scheme? They should not let their guard down either way, as they are a monster who gave up being human. The person notes that, even after showing them the power gap, they will not give up. If they keep this up, they are really going to get serious. Is that okay with them? Reina thinks that basic fire magic will not work, so she should use a stronger one the next time. Cariel wonders when the support from the cathedral is coming, and Reina knows that perhaps this monster blocked them off somehow. Sure enough, there are a few soldiers who were sent out to help. However, they are blocked by strong walls made of roots that they cannot hope to pass in time. Reina unleashes an intermediate fire spell on the root serpent, which does seem to hurt it a lot more. However, not enough to stop it as it opens its gaping maw and closes it, letting the excess heat fly into the air. Reina is shocked to see that intermediate magic has no effect, and Cariel wonders about those plants blooming on that monster. They are camellia flowers, fire-resistant forest plants. Fire-resistant forest trees are plants with fire resistance used for wildfire prevention. They have high regeneration and high fire resistance, so they need a different method. He calls out to Reina and tells her that small fire spells will not damage that thing. Even if it's just once, she should use her most powerful magic. Reina tells him that higher tier magic takes a lot of time to cast, but Cariel tells her not to worry about that, as he will be holding out until then. As he grips his sword more tightly, the person notes that they are rather impressive. They have never been called impatient before, but they are tired of this now. So, if they could, they should just die. The person unleashes a bunch of roots from the underground that immediately snake towards Cariel, but he slashes all of them up, except one that gets into his shoulder and bites into it. He grits his teeth tightly, but he must endure at least this much until Reina's magic is complete. The person is no fool, and realizes that Reina is the key, so she unleashes another wave of roots right into her, which opens up and begins to swallow her whole. But before it can, Cariel moves in and cuts it up. Even if he gets hit in the process, he just needs to hold out a little more. But before he can, a bunch of roots come from above and pin him to the ground before he can even react to it. The roots drill into his body, causing him to scream and spout blood on the ground. The person wonders if he is okay. It seems like all he has done is get hit for the past few hours since they last met. Cariel just regains his breath and notes that, compared to what she is about to take, this much is nothing. Before the person can wonder what he is blabbering about, Reina unleashes a devastating fire strike, and the person notes that they have to block this one, unleashing a bunch of hasty roots right in front of herself. But Reina lets the fireball fly right into the person's face, and their eyes widen with shock as it lands upon them. The person suddenly gets transported somewhere else, somewhere dark. She wonders where this is, but only finds a chair. Upon sitting down on it, old memories naturally come back. She came here every time to watch her younger sibling's stage performance with her family. It's so easy to find her sibling, even in this darkness. If she listens really closely, she hears an enchanting song, followed by that voice, which leads her to a place where there is a beautiful appearance, a voice that draws people in. All those descriptions that don't fit her are attached to her twin sibling. Their family consists of their parents, her, and her twin sibling. They are just an ordinary family, except for being poor, and she thought their lives would continue to unfold ordinarily. However, the moment her siblings stepped onto that damn stage, everyday life began to change little by little. They moved out of a house as one would find in a shanty town and into the city. Her quiet school life became filled with noise, but even until now, she really didn't understand how great her sibling was. Others describe her sibling as if they transcended the realm of humanity, but in her memories, her sibling is the kind of kid who would clench their fists and sweat profusely while intensely listening to hero tales, extremely innocent. At one point, their mother told them to listen well, as this is an unbelievable opportunity that just came at their doorstep. A nobleman of great standing in the royal government has arranged a stage for them. If this goes well, they might even become nobility. So can she do well? Her sibling promised to do so. As they hugged each other and said they loved each other, she just watched, surprised that a letter came from a nobleman. Her sibling really is amazing. Her sibling gets recognized like that, but she is pathetic. The truth is, she had been denying the influence her sibling had to some degree. If her sibling shines this brightly, it feels like she wouldn't be needed in this household. But through overhearing that conversation, she accepted the reality before her much earlier than expected. She could no longer treat her sibling as casually as before. At one point, while she was changing clothes, She found another dress in a dresser, one that she hadn't seen before in the past. She tried it on, wondering what kind of clothes these were, if they were stored separately. Her birthday was coming soon too. Perhaps it's a surprise. Before she could think anything hopeful, her mother smacked her across the head and made her take it off. She berated her, wondering why she put that on. Those clothes are for her sibling. On top of that, she's been under so much stress lately, and she hasn't been helping at all, playing around like a fool. Under her mother's constant berating, she could only offer half-hearted apologies anyway. After the smack-talking session, she walked through the house thinking that this is the first time she's seen her mother so angry. She should apologize to her sister too, as she's kind and will forgive her. Suddenly though, her younger sister appeared, having heard everything, and the older sister naturally apologized. The younger sister said it was fine. She has a lot of clothes anyway. The younger sister wonders why their mother got mad at that. Their mother has been sensitive lately, so she should understand. Would she want to go see a play together? It's a hero tale about a hero saving a princess. The younger sister immediately denied it and began walking away, noting that she has to go to practice. Who watches that kind of stuff anyway? This naturally put her even more down, as she saw everyone slowly begin to change. Was she the weird one for staying exactly as she was? She thought she wouldn't cling to heroes that only exist in stories, because she had someone who was more like a hero than a real hero, her father, someone who was unchanging and always loved both of his daughters unconditionally. When he had time, he always talked with her. But naturally, even this could not go on for long. She does not know the details, however. From some point on, unseen monsters appeared and attacked residential areas and cities along with them. Their entire home was set aflame by a salamander, and she was caught in the wreck, still alive, but her legs did not have any feeling anymore, being completely useless. She still had her voice and pleaded with someone to help her, and that's when her dad appeared. She looked through the door and screamed a little louder. She saw their eyes meet and thought it was okay, as he would definitely save her. However, he just reached out, sweating, and asked where the second one was. At the same time, the younger sister screamed out for help, as there was smoke around the entire house. The dad gritted his teeth, and the big sister naturally did not want to believe it at first. These terrible thoughts blooming in her head, saying if it really is so, she desperately tried to cut all of them away, but reality soon crashed down on her. It cannot be. It's not like that. He was just confused and asked. Next time she would listen better. All she wants is to be saved. However, her father had just left, and the big sister put her head down. This was a lie, all of it, and she continued pleading with someone, anyone, to save her. But nobody listened as the house continued to burn down, and that thought, that seed of corruption, spread to her mind. Why did her father ask for the second one? She does not know the reason. She just does not want to know after all, since it's better not knowing. Coriel looks through the smoke, as he can't see fully, but then he sees a figure, and his eyes widen marginally. Coriel looks at what remains of the person, as the two halves of their hood have been split and are now burning openly. However, something within her refuses to let go, as the flames begin to recede around her home, and she was burned almost to a crisp. She was still alive, still pleading with her father not to go. At the same time, a strange person appeared, as he was pretty curious. She had a body that survived in flames like these. It would be a shame to just pass by. Since she wanted to live so much, she should come with him, as he would shape her into something much better. Cariel goes to Reina, and sees that she is passed out because of all the mana she unleashed in the fireball. He should hurry and take her to the cathedral, and the kidnapped child as well. However, out of nowhere, the person begins to regenerate from their lower half, making the flames continue to spread around them, leaving them more like a skeleton than a full human. Cariel is shocked to see that it's regenerating even while burning. As long as it does not die, the burning body will regenerate endlessly, and the fire will never go out. The person, with their barely formed vocal cords, pleads for help as it hurts, incredibly so, and reaches for Cariel, not with the power of the roots but with desperation. Cariel clutches Reina close to him, at least wanting to protect her from anything that was coming, but at the same time, the soldiers from the cathedral appear. One of them asks if they are hurt anywhere, and another notes that the enemy is covered in fire from head to toe. They should target the main body, but the flames are fierce, so they should all be careful. One of the soldiers asks where the child is, and Cariel knows that she is still in the fire. Sure enough, she is still being held by those roots. The smoke around them all is starting to get to her, as she begins coughing. The person unleashes another strike towards the soldiers, extending her own flesh and bones to do it. striking one person hard. He is alive. However, his right side has been seared pretty bad. At the same time, she unleashes another strike on another soldier, whose body does not listen to him as he tells it to move. The captain grabs him and pulls him away from the strike, telling him to focus. The man apologizes, as the opponent's attacks are pretty erratic. The commander denies it. These aren't erratic from his perspective. It just looks like someone writhing in uncontrollable pain. The commander strikes right into the person's body, but it seems to have no effect at all, as her body sews back together. Cariel tells the priest that the regeneration is abnormally fast. The fire attached to its body will not go out either. With the cabin slowly falling apart, the captain gives out the order for everyone to fall back, as no matter what they do, the fire will not go out. What are they even supposed to do here? He clears his throat, noting that everyone will evacuate from this abandoned building, as staying here any longer is too dangerous. One of the soldiers wondered about the child, but the captain told him that if they cling to an opponent they cannot beat, they will all just die needlessly. They should evacuate first, then decide whether to re-enter based on the situation. A bunch of useless talk spreads throughout the burning building, all coming slowly to the realization that they should abandon it, not out of some sense of strategy, but of self-preservation. The captain looks at Cariel and notes that they should evacuate, but Cariel refuses. He made a promise and said he wouldn't make excuses anymore. No matter what happens, no matter who the opponent is, he will not back down now. The person, burned by the fire, slowly comes to, and she slowly realizes what happened. She understands because of her. It happened like this, and she can no longer save this child either. With this body, she cannot even hope to get close. Maybe someone else will. However, seeing the soldiers begin to retreat one by one, she realizes there is no one. It's just like back then. That's right. She was certain all of this time that heroes who save everyone only exist in fairy tales. So she acted to prevent people like her from appearing. She started this for the abandoned ones. So why did it turn out like this? What's the reason for all of that hatred, that ignorance? Because she's just a useless person. It's what a useless abandoned wretch like her did. But this is not what she wanted. Because of trash like her, something like this happened. She apologizes profusely to the small girl, begging for forgiveness, as this is all that she can do anymore. Suddenly though, someone sprints out. Naturally, it's Cariel who rushes through the flames, through the burning wood and the smoke, and before the ceiling can fall on the small girl, he catches it with his hands, searing the flesh and skin on his palms, but he manages to throw it away in time. The person looks at Cariel. He jumped into those flames to save the girl. This person is saving everyone just like they said. So then, really, what if this person had been there back then? She unknowingly reaches out to Cariel, who looks at her, then at his blade, and then grips it tightly before rushing towards her. But she just wonders, would he have reached out for her that time as well? Sure enough, Cariel would have. He does so now, but she doesn't understand why he is reaching out for her. Cariel wonders if she does not need help, and the person wonders if it shows she does need help. But still, her lower lip begins to quiver, and she looks down at the ground. She says that there is nothing that she's good at. Her face is not pretty either. She gets compared to her sibling every day, every hour. Actually, she is just a useless thing, a burden. There is no way he'd want to save someone like this. Cariel crouches down, having heard the whole story already, so she has many reasons not to receive help. But what about this? He extends his hand further and smiles warmly, noting that having just one reason that she needs help is enough for him to never pass her by. The person wonders if it's so. Does everything she just said really not matter? Is he really saving her? Cariel confirms as such. It never mattered. His arm is starting to hurt already. So won't she grab it? The girl, the woman, the person, never expected to see someone like this. They thought they wouldn't exist, that they were just fairy tale heroes. But a hero who saves everyone really does exist. Cariel impales her with his sword, but she just puts her arm around his, holding on, and thanks him. Cariel believed that the only obstacles a hero faced during their numerous adventures were monsters. However, he has met something entirely different now. The person thanks him for saving her from the bottom of her heart, as he is a true hero. For some reason, someone called him a hero, a girl whose nature as a monster or human remains unclear. But the words she said pierced deep into his chest, etching into his very soul. Cariel's breath becomes ragged, and he says that he is not a hero, and drops his sword. He is not a hero, so he shouldn't help others. That is what his mother often said to him. When someone was bullied, other children were calling her a monster and wondering what she eats. His mother told him to stop staring and just ignore it, as someone else would help them sooner or later. Cariel agreed, but seeing the hurt in the girl's eyes, seeing the desperation in her face, his own body refused. He promised to obey whatever his mother said, but when he saw that expression, his body moved on its own. He does not remember what happened after that, only the memory of coming home and listening to his mom scolding for hours on end. He slowly wakes up, with Reina glad to see him. She says he looked a little tired before they left. Cariel wonders if she is okay herself. She used so much magic. Her body must have been under a lot of strain, right? Reina knows that she got treated at the cathedral, so it is fine, but he keeps looking unwell. Cariel knows that it's because he set out on this journey to get revenge on monsters, and he thought only monsters would appear before him, but that monster, that girl, had a face of someone asking for help, the same face he saw when he was young. Yet even though they were making that expression, he couldn't stop. He swung his arm because he was scared of the flames before him, so he just kept swinging the sword in his hand. He didn't want to do that. He really didn't. He never meant to. It just always is like this with him. Why does this always happen? Why doesn't he ever have a choice? He's always just been dragged along to stuff. Reina tells him that it's not his fault, and Cariel clenches his fists, claiming that in the end, that person called him a hero. He gave up on being a hero a long time ago, so why would it have been different if he really were a hero, as they said? Everything would have been so different if he were strong like a hero. His friends, the village, his parents. He was sure he'd given up on this foolish dream of his, even though the possibility is lower than dust coming through those cracks. No matter how much he thinks about it, he couldn't give up. After all, as he thought, he wants to become a hero. They are now both heading towards the labyrinth Echidna, the location from the prophecy Akela told them about, the highest place where eyes meet the mother of monsters. The mother of monsters is the Echidna, and the highest place must mean the top, very top of the tower. There are checkpoints they must pass through to reach the labyrinth. They happened upon one of the checkpoints, and Cariel points out that tower behind it. That's Echidna. The tower-shaped labyrinth behind that tower is the corrupted land. If she looks closely, the sky is split. It's called the demonic realm's entrance, and from that entrance, the demon king appeared. Suddenly though, as Cariel looks at it from so far away, that entrance, that crack in the earth that will never go away, suddenly awakens with life, and his eyes react much the same way. He clutches his head as he is hit with a wave of migraines, but wonders what the hell was that? That creepy gaze. Who could it have been from? He explains that he felt like he made eye contact with something beyond the demon realm, and got startled for a moment. Reina asks if it's a woman, and Cariel doesn't really know what to tell her now, but he just got chills. Before they can enter the checkpoint, two guards stop them, with one of them noting that this is a place where missions are carried out under the royal government's orders. Entry is forbidden, unless they are authorized to do so. Reina knows that they are companions of Hero Akela, and they are participating in the Holy Sword recovery operation, so they want to meet Akela. One of the guards doesn't know where they heard that from, but they should stop playing around and just leave. The other guard wonders if he could just check at least, but the older, seasoned guard wonders when they have the time to check something like that. Their people are already inside, and they already have their hands full with troll gatherings. It's giving him a headache, so they should hurry up and leave. Reina knows that they can participate in the battle as well. Not right now, but once they recover a bit more, they definitely can. The guard wonders what they are saying. They are just brats, so she should scram with her boyfriend over here. Reina tells him that he's not her boyfriend yet, and another person speaks from behind, noting that they don't seem to be lying, so he should just let them in. The guard notes the interruption, but then his eyes widen as he sees that it's Hero Asanya's party. The person who talked notes that it seems like they're part of a hero party, just like them, but the guard wonders if she's here. The blue-haired woman confirms as such. That is correct. Hero Asanya is right here too. At the high walls of the mountain around the area, the trolls are gathered, rushing in with their jagged blades and mighty clubs. The guards move in, with the spear cavalry forward, but as the commander gives the orders for the archers to stand by and fire at his signal, someone arrives. Hero Asanya. The commander immediately tells everyone to retreat and withdraw from combat. Asanya continues his slow walk towards the trolls, wielding two blades at once, and tells the ugly trolls not to look down on him. He begins slashing them one by one, unleashing strikes so devastating and swift that nobody even sees them. Since they look down on him, now it's their turn to look up. The guards don't even know what happened. Those trolls just look like they suddenly fell apart. Hero Asanya is the only disciple who learned swordsmanship from Pertune, the previous holy sword hero. He is a hero who received the holy sword itself and inherited all of that symbolism with it. True to the epithet of the berserker, he enjoys fighting. Moreover, his combat skills are among the top 3 of all heroes, which is why he is the first hero deployed to the front lines on Koridora. With someone like this here, Cariel wonders if they should feel relieved or nervous. However, his words and attitude aren't as intense as he thought. He sees Asanya's party and tells Reina that they should go and follow those people from before. They do so, but end up inside the walls near where people are cooking and chatting over fires. Reina guesses that this is the barracks for the soldiers entering the labyrinth, and they eventually find that person from earlier. Cariel thanks her, as they got in easily because of her, and Reina does the same. They haven't even found their party yet. The person notes that it's a bit embarrassing. What happened earlier wasn't just her opinion. Someone from behind her speaks, noting that it's nice to meet them. Thanks? Let's say they received it together. He is a guide, right? The man is an archer. Cariel wonders if that really was a rhyme, and the man knows that he has a younger sibling, so he couldn't just let him pass by. Cariel wonders about this sibling, and whispers with Reina, noting that this person resembles the apprentice warrior they saw before, the one they explored the labyrinth with. Reina thinks he kind of does, and she doesn't really remember unimportant people like that. The man, the archer, notes that personally, he feels an affinity for the guide profession. To explain why, he has to go back to when he recently heard news that his sibling was seriously injured. He notes that from what he heard, the injury was life-threatening, so how is he still alive? The sibling wondered if that's what he says to his brother, who just came back from the brink of death, and explained that he is alive thanks to that person. At first, he looked down on them for being a guide, but that person never gave up on them, so they could survive that day. He wants to meet them in person and express his gratitude. The priest next to him agrees. When she almost got stabbed by a bandit's sword, he appeared and blocked it, and she learned properly about the guide profession. It seems like a really attractive job, right? So she wants to meet him again too. They should look for him together. The warrior immediately backpedaled, thinking about it again. Perhaps it's not worth going to find him, right? The archer continues. Even when he asked his sibling for a description, he wouldn't answer. He only knows that he is a guide anyway. That's what happened. Someday, if they meet, he will have to repay him. Reina notes that the composite sketch is totally Cariel, who immediately becomes very happily embarrassed and scratches the back of his head. He doesn't know who it is, but he must be a very sincere, young, and handsome person. He'd really like to meet them too. It must be someone one could learn a lot from. Reina tells him to stop it, as his old personality is coming out again. The woman from before notes that if they are still talking, they have some time left before departing for the labyrinth, so why don't they eat their fill while they talk? If they go into the big labyrinth like that, they will get hungry, so there is no need to decline. The archer can't guarantee the taste, but the two, having not eaten anything in quite a bit, immediately agree, noting that they will eat very well. As they eat, the archer wonders if the only reason they came to find them is to thank them. Cariel notes that actually they wanted to ask them if they could accompany them until they meet Akela, as outsiders like them might stand out and their physical condition isn't the best either. The woman agrees that they should travel together until then, but they look quite young. Their skills must be pretty good to be heroes' companions. Cariel knows that he is just an apprentice, but Reina is recognized even at the magic school, so she is pretty reliable. The woman notes that it is pretty unexpected. She notes that the archer over here is advanced rank, and she is intermediate. The three of them are childhood friends with Asanya. Now that she's thinking about it, Reina wonders why Akela took beginners like them as companions. Cariel wonders if it's because he has the qualities of a hero, but enough joking. There must be a reason, right? But aren't they curious about the meaning behind the adventurer ranks mentioned earlier, and why Cariel became a guide instead of a warrior despite his physical abilities? Well, now it's time to explain. First, something commonly called chi flows through people's bodies, which mages call mana. This ki has various types of constitutions in different people, mainly internal circulation type, which Cariel is, external circulation type, conversion type, etc. This classification of constitution isn't just a simple characterization. It has a tremendous impact on choosing professions and ranks, so they should use some examples to understand these constitutional differences better. Here we have the sturdy Cariel and an average intermediate adventurer. If the two are engaged in bare-handed combat, can Cariel win? Reina thinks that Cariel's rank is apprentice, so it is impossible. However, the answer is that he can definitely win. How did that happen? Well, let's move on to another example. There's Cariel with a long sword and an intermediate adventurer with a club. Assuming their skills are pretty equal, who would you think would win in a duel? Reina thinks that Cariel is the answer. He won barehanded and now has a weapon, so it's pretty obvious. However, the answer is that, unless the opponent makes a mistake, Cariel's chances are close to 0%. Why does this result occur? The woman from before explains a bit before answering. In fact, unless it's a special type from apprentice to intermediate, maybe even advanced, there isn't much physical difference between people. That is, the upper limit of physical abilities most people can develop is quite similar. The key point is the type of constitution. Cariel is an internal circulation type, so he can't fuse his chi into weapons. But the adventurer with a club was an external circulation type, so he could infuse his kai. That is precisely right. But simply infusing ki into a weapon isn't what decides victory. There's a rather complex truth hidden in here. Tools are basically consumables. The more one uses them, the weaker their durability becomes, and the blade naturally dulls. When one uses tools while connecting their chi to them, the following phenomenon occurs. The more they swing, the sharper the blade becomes, and its durability grows stronger. It's basically like a human muscle. The reason for this is quite simple. By connecting one's chi to the inanimate tools and equipment, they grant them characteristics that only living things possess, and those tools, like human muscles, no longer deteriorate but grow this way. The constitution can gauge what profession suits one, and what rank they can reach. In Cariel's case, his physical abilities have nearly reached their upper limit from all of his efforts, but due to the constitutional differences, he gave up the warrior path, which has pretty clear limitations. Additionally, with simple equipment alone, while he might handle people, there is a limit to facing monsters. When using equipment connected with chi, the required threshold becomes very low, and the equipment is also affected by constitution. The archer would like to explain more, but unfortunately they are out of time. The guards call everyone out as they are entering the labyrinth. Before they go, though, the woman gets up and wonders if they will be okay in their clothes. It will be pretty cold. Reina says that she is fine, and Cariel knows that it is a little cold, so the woman tells him to follow, and takes him to a chest that has a bunch of clothing. She asks what his size is, but Cariel knows that he will find it himself. Just helping this much is enough. Reina looks sternly at the archer, noting that the food was delicious today as well. The archer notes that they have side dishes left over, and starts to ask for them. But Reina looks at him with eyes dilated in rage, and asks him to say what he wanted again. But the archer immediately backs off, claiming that it's nothing, as he cleans his bowl. He thinks that Cariel should run away from that girl, as this type of woman is really dangerous. Suddenly, though, he meets a knight whom he is acquainted with the knight noting that it's been a while. How has he been? It seems that he's adventuring with a hero, right? The archer confirms as such, noting that it's basically all the same, with the knight laughing. It really is a pretty worthless struggle everywhere. How many times has he told him to take this route instead of becoming an adventurer, though? By the way, those children next to them, are they new companions? The archer notes that they are just passing acquaintances, really. The knight looks at them as they talk and thinks that they are far too young. After today, he might never see their faces again. Would it not be better to stop them now? The knight tells him that it's not his responsibility anyway, just because he didn't stop them. He just does not wish to see him blame himself again, but they are calling for him, so he will go on ahead first. As he does so, the archer pulls at the high collar over his mouth, noting that he will never show a self-blaming appearance again, no matter what happens. With everyone ready, Asanya notes that they will depart, and they begin walking outside of the first checkpoint. They pass through snowy mountains and through trolls, and they finally arrive at their location, which is pretty impressive. For some reason, a holy sword appeared without a demon king appearing, so they came to recover the holy sword that appeared for unknown reasons. That is why they went to this place today. Heroes gather at the massive labyrinth Echidna, but who knows? Among those gathered today, the owner of the holy sword might be born. If the owner of the holy sword is born, then that means a demon king could be born as well, as it is written everywhere. The Blood Knight from before thinks that it is time to go to where the heroes gather. It is time to unleash their feast. Labyrinth Echidna is a tower-shaped labyrinth divided into 7 floors. On each particular floor, one of Echidna's children, such as the Hydra, Cerberus, or Sphinx, stands as a guard. The monsters on each floor change randomly each time, but on the highest and final 7th floor, the mother of monsters, Echidna, is always there, waiting. Cariel looks at it from down below, thinking that it is of an unbelievable height. It feels overwhelming just from the sheer size, before even going in. But when thinking about who was around him, it all felt a little reassuring again. Inside the first floor, a bunch of guards stand watch, one of them wondering when they are going to come down. He's been in this one spot for hours. Another guard hears footsteps, wondering if they actually retrieved it, but his comrade notes that they are coming from down below, and sure enough, Asanya appears. He knew some brats would get here ahead of him, but why has the holy sword not been retrieved yet? One of the guards explains that he knows the heroes definitely went up, but they still have not come down, so he is not entirely certain. Asanya notes it's unexpected to hear that there are heroes, so which of them are up right now? The guard is, again, not sure, but there are definitely 3. He continues explaining further until Asanya stops him, surprised to hear that even with all that, the holy sword has not been retrieved. Alright then, they'll just head up right away. The guard also informs him that a certain someone has arrived, which shocks Asanya. After a bit more walking, Kariel and Reina are suddenly stopped by the woman with blue hair, who wonders what is going on. From what she has just heard, Akela is not in this place. She doesn't have definitive proof yet, so she won't press further. But a rather troublesome person seems to have come here as well. If they're part of that side, then any goodwill ends here. Kariel looks at her without a hint of fear. He just wonders who this uninvited guest is, and about Akela himself. Now that he thinks about it, the fine sword Akela lent him is gone as well. He did say he could retrieve it at any time. Does that mean he had a reason to call the sword back to him? Reina steps forward, telling them to wait just a moment. They can prove they are Akela's companions, and she asks Kariel to take out the sword he gave, which naturally is not there. This causes the blue-haired woman to laugh lightly, as her reaction was far cuter than expected. She was just teasing because she reminded her of her sibling. She notes they are innocent, but they should understand that as long as they don't cause trouble, everything is okay. Reina is a little mad that she's treating them like kids and notes that it won't happen. The archer apologizes along with the blue-haired woman, who, now that she thinks about it, notes they do not even know each other's names. So, to make it up to them, they should introduce themselves. She puts her hand forward, offering a handshake, claiming she is Inez. It seems like they will be traveling together a bit longer, right? The archer also introduces himself as Cinnamon. Kariel looks at the hand, recognizing it for what it is. Was taking this outstretched hand really something to hesitate over like this? He takes it, shaking it lightly, and asks if he can just call her Nuna, surprising Inez. Reina notes that back then, when she told him to do it, he ignored her. Kariel notes that she's not older than him, and Inez agrees, with a melancholic expression on her face, telling him to call her whatever he likes. In the outer area of the second floor of the labyrinth, Asanya finds a bunch of dead monsters. Someone notes that it's been a while, and Asanya agrees. Asanya was wondering why there were no monsters, but it was Rizen's doing. Rizen notes that it's nice to see him too. Asanya says that it just had to be him that he sees first, out of so many heroes. But hey, can he deal with them cleaner? Rizen just scoffs, noting that one has to kill monsters dead after all, and with his ability, it does happen. Asanya tells him to try to control himself at least a little, and says that they've had enough small talk. Why did he come here? Did he perhaps feel it too? Rizen's expression seems to harden through the mask, but then he laughs it off, noting that this is a pretty vulgar thing for a hero to say, a bit too blunt for his tastes. Asanya tells him to stop the wordplay. He notes there is someone here with a different agenda, so he should stay alert. Personally, Asanya came here for 2 reasons. First is the Holy Sword recovery. Second is that this place is closest to the demonic realm's entrance. Does he understand? Rizen hums, noting that they felt the same thing after all, the Demon King's presence. At the entrance of the 3rd floor of the labyrinth, Inez looks at the 3 doors before them and wonders why there are 3 in the first place. Kariel tells her that this floor seems to be where Cerberus appears. The 3 doors connect to the 3 towers, and when one opens a door, a 1-headed Cerberus is summoned in that tower, instead of a 3-headed one. The important thing is to stop those 1-headed beasts from gathering and becoming 3-headed. That's what it says in the notes anyway. As they talk, Reina looks at Inez with a certain look, wondering why she's huddled up with him talking like that. Now she's starting to get curious too. Asanya tells Rizen that since they do not know where one might appear, it is best if they split and take 1 floor each. Asanya goes right, and Rizen goes left, meaning that it only leaves the group with the one in the middle. Cinnamon thinks that if everyone goes in there, it might balance things out roughly. Kariel is a bit surprised by how fast the process is. They are already on the 3rd floor, with heroes here, and it might not take long to reach the 7th. As they make their way through the door, though, a few drips can be heard, as one of the Cerberus appears, ready to gorge on their flesh. As the group continues to walk through the spiral stairs, Cariel remembers that they said they were childhood friends with Asanya, so do they know why he became a hero in the first place? Inez notes that it may not be what he is expecting, but Cariel says it's okay. He is simply curious after all. Inez agrees to explain that the three of them were born in the same village around the same age. To explain what triggered him to want to become a hero, they have to go back to when they were still young. She liked to chat, Cinnamon liked to play, and Asanya just basically rested all of the time. In his defense, Asanya showed talent in all areas, so he quickly lost interest in basically everything. When they were asking him to play with the other children, he said it was too boring, as he always won anyway. Then one day, during that ordinary routine, something fairly big happened that would change that daily life. Reina wonders if it's a monster attack that ruined their village, but Inez notes that it's nothing like that. A famous person just came by. Reina is a little relieved, but Cariel can see that she was basically hoping for that, with Reina telling him to stop exposing her like this. Cinnamon agrees. A famous person. An incredibly famous person, actually. It was the hero Pertune. He came to their village, likely to deal with the high-ranking monsters that appeared in the Nibra areas. The villagers who saw the hero's procession were cheering and applauding, filled with excitement, but Asanya seemed to feel something entirely different. After the procession ended, and the earlier fervor cooled with the night air, just as she was suggesting to head back, Asanya's eyes still held that same heat, and he said this one thing, that he would become a hero. After that, he changed entirely. The reason he didn't hang out with them wasn't laziness anymore, but training, and he really did become a hero. She doesn't know what he felt that day that made him want to become a hero. Inez notes that, unless he is an absolute idiot, he didn't become one just because it looked cool, or so she hopes. That's how they are still traveling together, like when they were kids. Reina notes that this reminds her of a certain idiot next to her, and Cariel gives her a long side eye, but Inez finds it strange. This situation right now is strange. They've climbed the tower quite a bit, but there is no sign of Cerberus or any monster. Are they misunderstanding something? Reina wonders, though, if perhaps both heroes went to the other side. On his side, Asanya feels a faint vibration in his legs, a sound that is gradually getting closer. He doesn't know which way it comes from behind, or from the front. This is really bad. If he is not careful, he will be crushed from both sides. Suddenly, though, something appears right behind him, using the spiral staircase to immediately close in on him and lunge. Asanya has already detected the beast and crashes his blade into its neck, killing it instantly. At the same time, another beast appears from above, descending on a spiral staircase with much more frightening speed. Asanya himself notices this hound too, and puts his hand through its gullet before taking it down with a large overhead swing. He can see, however, that he is not finishing them off at all. The jaws of the one he just hurt are broken, but its spirit is unbroken. Asanya catches both of its jaws, and is pushed back a bit, but then uses his force to swing them even more open. He knows that this must be one of the Cerberus beasts. It wants 3 heads, huh? Then he will give it what it wants. The beast knows it messed up, and Asanya begins to roughly pull the jaws in opposite directions until he completely unhinges its jaws and goes even further, making orange blood spray everywhere as the beast falls down breathless. Asanya catches his breath and turns back around, as there was still one more breathing beast that he left embedded in the wall. His group waits at the entrance of one of the towers, and when Asanya comes around, he asks about the other side. Cinnamon tells him that they haven't come yet. This might be meddling, but just in case there are variables, he should go check the situation. Asanya tells him that there is no need for that. They should wait here. Risen might be particularly slow, but they have no reason to rush either. Before long, they are at a 5th floor entrance, where they are met with a pretty shadowy figure who looks right out of a medieval painting. Risen wonders if it's a monster, and Asanya calls him an idiot. That's actually a hero. The hero himself notes that it is understandable that he thought he was a monster. His eyes are quite dim at his age. Risen notes that he is not even 30 yet. But what is he doing alone in a dark place? Is he aura farming? Asanya himself asks Helium what brought him here, and Helium tells them to say one question at a time, as he is getting pretty confused. First, if they look around, they will see numerous doors and passages. From what he briefly observed, the floor is like a maze, and he has not seen any monsters yet. However, someone stands above them and smiles with manic glee. She tells everyone to stay quiet if they can, as now is the time to answer questions, isn't it? As Cariel sees Helium, he thinks about his reputation. He was appointed a hero at a very young age, and the ability he uses is none other than the power of the sun itself. He is popular enough that certain groups show fanatical worship towards him. Cariel has even heard Helium is younger than him, which, in short, means that he is insanely jealous. Reyna agrees, and that's when the Sphinx appears and notes that it's time to answer the questions. This is the monster of the 5th floor, the Sphinx. She is pleased to see quite a large group gathered here. She will be telling them this in advance. This is a place where sharp, brilliant minds hold more power than their sharp blades. They had better loosen their stiff minds than warm up their stiff bodies. Now those who will answer the questions will stand over there in that circle. Risen notes that they probably can't enter if they do not solve her riddles, and Helium asks what's there to worry about. He plants his sword into the ground and notes that he will just rip it into pieces. However, Cariel tells him that he should wait a moment, as force will not work here. Helium immediately turns around, demanding to know who it was that ignored his power. The Sphinx, however, agrees that when 5 or more humans gather like this, there is always one piece of trash among them, but thanks to the one who knows their place, she is spared the unnecessary trouble. For those foolish masses who still do not understand, she will graciously explain. They should hurry and look around everywhere. There are countless doors and passages that are intertwined to form a maze, aren't they? That is not all. The labyrinth structure continuously transforms, making it impossible to find not just the exit, but even the entrance that they went through. Among these nearly infinite doors, only she knows the correct one to advance. Do they understand now? She is the most supreme being in this place, and this massive tower bends to her very will. Therefore, they should show proper respect to one so exalted as her. Helium asks if she is higher than the sun itself. Well, her arrogance might surpass it, and Risen tells her that's enough. She probably doesn't need to hide it anymore. The Sphinx tells them that further conversation is now meaningless, so before she develops her misanthropy any further, she will graciously guide the man who stopped the girl's reckless steps. She wants that man to step forward, who is none other than Cariel. With the group surprised that a guide is even here in the first place, Reyna tells him not to push himself, as they have not heard what happens if they fail to answer correctly. The Sphinx giggles lightly, as that's right. She almost forgot to mention that important thing. If they fail to answer correctly, surely he knows what happens without even asking, right? Knowing won't change a thing anyway. If they want to climb this place, that is. Cariel basically knows that it means that he's dead, and Reyna notes that perhaps he shouldn't. But Cariel grits his teeth and says that he has to. He does not have a choice. The Sphinx is a uniquely intelligent monster capable of pretty deep communication, but since conversation is possible, he cannot think of her as a mere monster anymore. He should recall the contents about the Sphinx written in his father's notes. He will calmly think it through, and calmly pass this challenge. Asanya stays silent, and Helium can't believe that bastard just called her out like that. The Sphinx notes that this must be his first time in such an important role. His nervous appearance is quite notable. She appreciates the courage herself, so she will start right away. This is one of the Sphinx's traits. She is unnecessarily kind. The first riddle is given. In the morning, it walks on 4 legs. At noon, it walks on 2, and in the evening, it walks on 3. What is this creature? Reyna herself has heard this type of riddle before, so that means it shouldn't be difficult for Cariel. However, she sees that he is not answering. She is annoyed and scared that the Sphinx gave him this question right from the start. A knowing smile plays at the Sphinx's lips before she bursts into laughter, noting that the question might be difficult after all, even though she gave him the easiest one out of pity for his situation. For the sake of his reputation after stepping forward, he should try a little harder, or perhaps he would like some help. Risen thinks that they will have to solve it with force after all. Asanya tells him to hold on, as there might be some kind of answer here, and Helium himself wonders what the answer is. Some kind of monster. Reyna knows Cariel's actions have a reason, but she is still pretty frightened for him. He explains that the answer is a human. The 4 legs in the morning represent infancy, the 2 legs at noon represent youth, and the 3 legs in the evening represent old age, as they have to lean on canes to walk. The Sphinx agrees. That is correct, and everyone breathes a sigh of relief, thinking that it's over, making the Sphinx laugh even harder now. They are celebrating as if they've solved everything. They should not relax so much. She'll be giving the next question right away. Everyone is a little confused, as they all thought it was just one question. But Cariel himself knows the Sphinx's questions are not limited to just one. There were only a few questions with answers written in the notes. No matter how much he thinks about it, He cannot think of any method other than flattering the Sphinx to get easier questions from now on. He will lower himself as much as possible and raise this beast in front of him to a godly status. Thank you for watching. See you next time.